Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the final round of Season 0 of the DWREC racing circuits on the calendar. A place where nothing is given and everything must be earned. Championships, final standings, and bragging rights are all on the line, and there's no margin left for error. This is the final chapter. Sebring International Raceway is raw and relentless, the surface is rough, the bumps never stop, and the circuit demands absolute focus from lights to flag. It's a track that exposes weakness, punishes impatience, and rewards those who can manage the pressure when it matters most. There could not be a more fitting venue to decide a title. In the pro class, the championship fight is balanced on a knife edge. 3 drivers arrive with everything to play for: Robin Wist, David Chilling, and Joe Harrison. The gaps are microscopic, but the tensions are enormous. One mistake, one bold overtake, or one perfectly judged strategy call could be the difference between glory and regret. In the Pro-Am class, the story is just as open, the podium and the sharp end, but Sebring has a habit of tearing up expectations. Consistency, tyre management and survival could matter more than outright pace. And then there's the Am class, where all eyes are on Michael Rhodes. He arrives as the leader, chasing a clean sweep. But Sebring is no place for comfort. The pressure is immense, and one small lapse could undo a season's worth of hard work. This is where championships are decided by reputation, not by reputation, but by resilience. This is where seasons are defined by courage under pressure. The road ends at Sebring, and when the checkered flag falls, champions will be crowned. As always, I'm joined in the commentary box by Zach. Zach, how are you doing on this fine evening? Looking forward to...
I'm looking forward to the race today. I'm been excited all week.
Absolutely. As we come racing into the new year, it is going to be the end of an old championship, and seeing who is able to handle that pressure. And if you are interested in joining us, there will be a little pop-up coming up every now and then in the broadcast, but we'll give you a quick overview of what you can expect from the next season of the DWREC Racing Endurance Championship Season number 1. As always, it's going to be myself and Zach here for a live broadcast at every single round of an expanded 10-race calendar. Not only is the calendar expanded, we've chucked in a couple, 3 actually, sprint rounds where you get yourself a sprint race of half an hour and an endurance race of, a feature race of an hour and a half, and the classic 2-hour endurance format that you've come to love at the wonderful DWREC racing community. And as you have seen this season, in a couple of rounds, there is going to be some variable weather to keep our drivers on their toes. We're going to be heading to such great tracks. We're going to go Spa, Watkins Glen, Bathurst, Brazil, Brands Hatch, Laguna Seca, Sebring, Road America, Imola, and then finishing the season up in the middle of April at Portimao. And of course, we have 25, 15, and 10 iRacing dollars on the line for our podium finishes in each class. Please do check the top link in the description if you are wanting to join. Hop in the Discord server and check out the sign-ups channel. Pop it in there, and we will be sure to sort you out before the season starts off in February this year. Zach, you looking forward to another season of the Darkwing Racing Endurance Championship coming up?
Yeah, I think so. It was a really exciting opening season. We're opening up to, people outside of just our own team here. So I think it's going to make this next season super exciting, and a lot of the format changes are going to be, I think, something the drivers are going to like. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely, and of course, as you said, bringing in those external drivers, you're going to have some people in there who are absolutely going to be able to mix up the order, as well as our returning drivers. I know we've got people like Mike Rhodes in there, Timo Gartner. They're going to be challenged by some of the new drivers joining our grid, both from the DWR community and from those on the outside as well. And it's going to certainly be an interesting one. We will come back to that a little bit later in the stream, but for now, let us turn our attention to the final round of the championship. You can see we've got 1 minute and 40 seconds of practice to go. We've got almost wonderfully even split classes, but we have 4 of our Pro Class drivers, 4 of our Pro-Am drivers, 5 AM drivers, and 5 of our wildcards, including some drivers we are yet to see this season. We've got Imran in there, we've got Mikey Rogers in there making a special guest appearance. We haven't seen Tom Critchlow every race this round, so I think that the order is going to be a little bit mixed up, don't you think, Zach?
I think so. The wild card last week definitely proved to mix up the field quite a bit, and I think today is going to be no different.
Absolutely. We saw Elliot Heller, who's back to join us this week, do what we thought would romp away from the field, but had a couple of spins himself, as we can see from car number 12 there. And really mix up that field. Very different circuit than Le Mans we've got on our hands today. Of course, it is Sebring International Raceway, and well, it's incredibly different. There's not 2-3 massive long straights there. A lot of technical twisty corners mixed in with a good couple of straights as you head into Sunset Corner and onto the pit straight. I think they might be our 2 main places of overtaking. We're looking at a reasonable track temperature there, 36 degrees Celsius, 21 degrees air temp, so it's all being done by that sun beaming down on the circuit. And of course, no chance of rain coming for our drivers today, so they're going to have a nice clean run in terms of weather on their way to the finish. And as I said, there's a checkered flag out for practice, and we're about to head our way into qualifying for this final round of the season, where some might be out of the championship, but they're certainly going to want to compete for some pride of working their way to the top of the timing screen. 35 degrees, 24 degrees track temperature now, come down quite a bit for qualifying, and we will see that it is Robin Wist, our first driver out of the pits in that Mercedes, and hoping to be the first driver on track as well.
I think we're in for an exciting race. A lot of people like this track. It's very popped laps just due to the popularity and the time they've spent on this one.
Absolutely, and as well, not only does it host the 12 Hours of Sebring special event every March, but it's just a week or so again was in the iRacing official schedule. So I think a lot of these drivers are going to be pretty well practiced as compared to some of the circuits we've been to this season. Of course, we ran Le Mans before it was on the official schedule. Silverstone's not been run this year in this season, so I think there will be a bit of a different dynamic where I think a lot of our drivers are going to be a lot more confident at pushing the limits and seeing what they can do around this track. And how exactly that is going to go for them we will see over the next 13 minutes or so to see who lines up at the front of our grid. All but 3 drivers are out right now. We've got Timo Gartner, Andy Keane, and João Costa in the pits. And actually, Michael Rhodes has just gone into the pits, so I wonder if he had a little bit of an incident on his outlap and wanted to reset and go again. Hopefully, he will be heading back out the pit lane for his own sake, trying to make it 6 for 6 wins in as many rounds in this championship, and very much hoping that he's able to sweep it. And I think that would be quite an impressive feat over so many different circuits that we've been on.
I think you're absolutely right.
Indeed. And let's have a little look. It is indeed Robin Wist who is going round here and making his way round the tricky turns of Sebring.
I think one of the more exciting corners to watch today is going to be that sunset bend. It's a nice high-speed, long corner, and for some of these cars, that rear end likes to get a little happy. So we'll see how many drivers are able to keep that under control or how many lose their will upon it.
Absolutely. It looks like we might be having a couple of issues with the YouTube stream there. I am just going to restart it briefly. It seems to be stuttering along. So if you are watching on YouTube, do give a brief moment live on YouTube before anyone has set their qualifying lap. And having a little look at who is setting a good qualifying lap. It looks like Robin Wist so far. He set the fastest Sector 1 of his class, and then the fastest Sector 2 overall. No one seems to have been challenging that so far, but only Jeffrey Damon has been through Sector 1 and 2. In fact, actually, Imran in the 155 has set the fastest Sector 2 overall. So it looks like he is going to be making at least a challenge in this opening stage of qualifying. Before we get to this race. Let's see what Robin Wist was able to do. It was a 1:58.684, not a shabby time at all around this circuit. And we wait to see who might be coming up to challenging him next across the line. Well, it's going to be Imran, who's got the closest time so far. And where does he go on the leaderboard? He takes himself up to P1.5 a second, up to Robin Wist. We are once again seeing that the wildcard drivers are really putting themselves in there.
Yeah, a lot of these guys we didn't get to see this season. And, knowing them on the team, we've got a lot of quick ones in there. The Ford in, I believe it's the Ford and the Aston Martin were the cars to pick last week. They tend to carry a lot of curb weight. And they were able to kind of maintain that stability around the track. So we'll see if choosing the Ford for Imran looks like it's working out so far.
Certainly does, as he goes faster once again on his own best time in the first sector. We got a few times in the board now as David Schilling takes it to the top spot. He is not going to be misplaced as the dominant leader in this championship. We've seen so many races this season. And he will not be displaced. A 1:57.985. But Imran there, as we said, has set a fastest Sector 1 of anyone in any class so far. So we're going to see as he comes towards the Sector 2 timing line whether he's able to replicate that again. It's looking like we're getting a real mix of drivers between our pro and our wildcard class in that top 5. And it certainly is going to be seen who can take the top spot today. So far, it's looking like Imran, because he's set the fastest Sector 2 of anyone on this track. And David Schilling sets the fastest Sector 1 of his class. Of course, Imran and David are in separate classes. That's wildcard, not scoring any points, where David is out and out here for the championship. Let's see what happens as Imran comes across the line. He's going to do a 1:57.333 and go 6/10 of a 6/10 of a second faster than David, who's had a less than optimal Sector 2 and won't be going faster on this particular lap. But he will have another lap to go, and there's 8 minutes still remaining in this session for him to do something about that top time. Have a little look down the rest of the order as they stand, as Brinker in the 93 makes his way up to P4. Got Aichley in P5, Tom Critchell and Mikey Rogers, they've just swapped places for 6th and 7th, followed closely behind by Sven Altman, who changes, as I'm looking at the screen, to go at top of that Pro-Am class. And Jeffrey Damon in P2. JT Sawyer going well to be in P10 in front of Thorne, who's at the first race of this season. No one else, no one down from 12th to 19th has set a time so far on the board. JT Sawyer setting a fastest Sector 1 of his class. We're going pretty nicely around this circuit in that McLaren, and he's quicker than Michael Rhodes at the moment, who is looking to make it a 6-for-6 sweep in the AM class victories for the season. He's won every single AM class race this season. On his first lap, he is slower than JT, and having a little look, it's just by over a 10th and a half, and that's going to be an interesting one to watch. Maybe not the circuit for Michael Rhodes, where he has been so dominant so far this season. Imran not having a great Sector 2, and our winner from last time out overall, Elliot Heller, comes up, but is still half a second behind Imran. Quite the gap to make in the final 6 minutes of this session. Andy Keane sets our time. It's going to be 4.5 seconds off the pace in P15. Stefan Heinrich setting the time now. JT comes across the line and moves himself up in front of our wildcard driver of Thorne. He has decided that's enough qualifying for him. Might well have used all of his laps. So he is going to stay currently P12 overall. But Michael Rhodes setting the fastest first sector of anyone in that AM class. Is he going to be able to make a challenge against JT Sawyer? David Schilling going very well. He set the fastest first and second sector of his class, hopefully looking to challenge the two wildcards at the top. And our pro guys are now putting in very close times indeed. Going to be David Schilling, who just now goes 0.3 of a second off Imran. Robin Wist, Tom Critchell and Mikey Rogers all looking pretty close together. James Vernon has got a meatball flag. His qualifying is going to well and truly end there. And everyone, apart from Costa, has set a time so far. And as I say that, Costa comes across the line to go middle of that AM pack. Sunset corner now for Michael Rhodes. He set the fastest first sector. He set the fastest second sector of anyone in his class. Is he going to be able to displace JT Sawyer at the top of the AM class? Yes, he is, by 0.5 of a second, and actually goes in front of Timo Gartner, who's currently last in that Pro-Am class. Maybe not something that I was particularly expecting to see today, as most of our drivers have finished their qualifying attempts with 4 minutes and 47 seconds to go. Just some of those who came out later in the session left to go. Let's have a little look here. Timo Gartner is going to head through the timing beam of the first sector and goes fastest overall of his class with a 38.1 in that Porsche. Very good car around here, as it's got quite a tight steering rack on it. Is he going to be able to put himself up around that P9, P8 area in order to get himself into the lead of his class? Felix Costa has set a personal best Sector 2. He is not going to be challenging the top with that, I don't think, because he didn't go faster in Sector 1. Then Ullman, currently, who's leading the Pro-Am class, came out in the pits, started a lap and went back in the pits again. You can only assume he had a bit of an incident after his lap had started, or maybe he just wanted to get a little bit of practice in for that race start. He is poled right now, as Timo Gartner doesn't set up a fastest time for Sector 2, so we're going to have to see where he comes in that order of drivers, as now João Costa in the number 11 car becomes the Pro-Am leader. And what is Timo Gartner going to do? Sliding through Sunset Corner, coming across the line, getting very close to that wall on an exit. He's going to come across the line, and it's going to be a 1:59.371 to marginally, by 1/100th of a second, become the leader of that Pro-Am class. And it's just Andy Keane who is left on the road, currently last overall. But is he going to be able to make up some time? It doesn't look like he had a good first sector at all. In fact, I think he had an incident in his first sector. 160 seconds is not going to get you anywhere up that board. But does he have another lap to go? Or is he just going round to try and get a bit of practice of this track, starting last on the grid? Because he comes across the line. I don't think that time will do anything to challenge at all as he stays last overall. And I think he might just be driving around to get a bit of practice as he slows down, comes to a stop and pulls himself into the pit lane. Well, let's have a little bit of a look of how your drivers are going to line up in their classes. Even less than 2/100th of a second, it's 2/1000ths of a second between João Costa and Timo Gartner. Zach, I don't think we've seen a gap that close all season.
Yeah, I think that's going to make for a very interesting race. I mean, the way this track works, you don't have a lot of straights to really get those tires warmed up. So it usually takes about a lap and a half to get those warmed in. So it's going to be very interesting with how close these times are to see how this lap 1 is going to go.
Absolutely. It is in, in no way, shape or form a done deal. In fact, all of our Pro-Am class were covered by 3/300ths of a second, very close. Our Pro class covered by less than a second. We're going to have some interesting races on today, I do think, especially with those wild cards getting in the mix as we count down to the final minute before our final race of this season in the Dark Wing Racing Endurance Championship. So as we count down that final minute, we will have a little look at what our drivers face today. As I said, we have 17 turns of the Sebring International Raceway here in Sebring, USA. It is a very popular circuit on the iRacing calendar. So you'll see quite a few drivers who are very well experienced at this circuit into this race. Of course, they have a full formation lap to try and heat up those tyres on that track temperature that has been cooling down. As you can see there, we started at 36, but we got down to 24 degrees Celsius by the time that we ended qualifying, and we're down to 23 now with 7 seconds left on the clock. We're going to push forward a little bit in time, so I actually expect that track temperature to maybe come down a little bit more. Checkered flag is out, but there are no drivers out on the track who need to meet it as we head in to the race for the final round of the Darkwing Racing Endurance Championship, and everybody manages to make their way out onto the grid, which we should be seeing in front of our eyes in just a few moments' time. It's Imran in the 115 who takes up pole position, 157.333, followed in P2 by P1 of our Pro class, David Schilling. It's going to be Hella in P2, our winner from last time at Le Mans, and Robin Wiss taking up P2 in the Pro class, but starting P4 overall in that Mercedes. It's going to be the Porsche of Thomas Critchell in P3, P5 overall, followed very closely behind by the McLaren of Mikey Rogers. Then it's going to be Brinker, P3 in our wildcard class, starting in P7 behind those pro drivers, and Aitchley in another Porsche in the number 90 who comes up behind them. Then it's going to be Timo Gartner who leads our Pro-Am class by 3/1000ths of a second, followed by his championship rival in Felix Costa. Then it's going to be Sven Altman and Jeffrey Damer making up P4 and P3 of our Pro-Am class. They're starting P11 and P12 overall. Then it's to me, Carsten Walter in P13 and Michael Rhodes, who leads the AM class and is trying to make it 6 for 6 this season in P14. JT Sawyer starting a good P2 in his class, P15 overall, followed by Thorne, our wildcard entry in P16 just behind. Having a look at the back of the grid, it's going to be James Vernon in P17, Stefan Heinrichs in P18, P4 in the AM class, before our grid is finished off by Andy Keane in that Greg's livery car. He's certainly going to be hoping that he can move a bit further forward today. Zach, having a look at this race before we set off today, who's your money on with 15 seconds before they start their formation lap?
I think it's going to be very interesting between the pro classes and a couple of the wild cards. You know, we got to be watching Imran, since the time he put in is, you know, pretty massive, but we'll see if he's able to keep that time throughout the race. We all know qualifying is much different than the actual race.
Absolutely, especially around here, quite a high tyre degradation circuit, I have to say. So those strategy calls when you want to change tyres, when you want to come in for your fuel, if you're held up in traffic, maybe of another class, you really want to avoid that, especially if you're towards the front. But of course, we're also dealing with pretty cold track temperatures for this track. 23 degrees Celsius is the track temp right now, and you can see that we are ending up with quite a few drivers weaving to get themselves with some tyre temperature of the of those starting drivers, and they're leaving a bit of room to the pace car, maybe to do a bit of acceleration, a bit of braking. But of course, Imran, who leads the overall pace of the field, he hasn't done a start in this series. Of course, we have slightly modified start rules than what you'd expect in normal iRacing, so he needs to make sure he gets that all-important procedure right on the start. And you can see all of those cars as you look further back in the field. Quite a variety we've got on our hands. We've got the Chev of David Schilling, who's getting a bit closer to the pace car now. We've got Imran in the Ford Mustang. I can see the Mercedes of Robin Wist there. We've got some McLarens, we've got some Porsches. We've even got an Audi on the grid of Thorn. A little bit of self-inflicted pain, I think, there. Especially starting so far back. He's going to hope that he can gain some places forward from there. But everybody, apart from that wildcard class, is actually pretty nicely in their class groups. You know, the wildcards, you've got all the pros together, all the pro-ams together, and all the ams together for maybe one of the only times we've seen it this season. But is that going to be the way after we take that lap 1? Very tricky and high speed turn 1 if you are on cold tyres. And if you lose it there, you're probably losing it into someone else at the same time, especially if you're side by side, maybe even 3 wide. And I have to say, I've seen it 4 wide here before in iRacing officials, and I don't think that's ever ended well.
Yeah, this can be a tough track to choose when and where to make those passes, right? You don't really have a lot of straights. Some of the corners here are more tricky, so if you show your nose in, you could end up, you know, causing an incident with more than just one car. You know, we're also at the double-edged sword of what is this cool track, right? That first lap and a half to 2 laps is going to be a little slippery, but once you get those tires warmed up, it's going to get real sticky on the track. So excited to see what kind of moves are going to be pushed in those first 5 to 10 laps. Absolutely, and you can see them all weaving to try and build some tyre temperature there. As Zach was saying, it is it's very much going to be a tricky track to overtake, especially this sunset corner that we're coming down to now. You're really fighting with people who are taking maybe 2-3 different lines through there. It can be very difficult to predict where the other car is going to go, but there's one place that we know that all of these cars will be going as we head round Sunset Corner to the start line for the final time in Season 0 of the Darkwing Racing Endurance Championship. We're waiting, and it's green for the first round of for the last round of the Darkwing Racing Endurance Championship. It's Imran who's still in the lead, but we've got David who's looking round the outside. Everyone going through Sunset. Imran's lost 2 places in 1 going through turn 1 there. He's lost out to David, and he's lost out to Elliot as well. And that's going to be Tom Critchell up the inside as well. That's a disaster start for Imran as he loses 4 positions, and he might be losing quite a few more as we're heading down this second straight. And I think that's Robin Wist doing a pass, getting past in the background there. Excuse me, as they head down to the hairpin for the first time. Everyone looks like they've made it reasonably clean
through that first corner. It's too wide in the background there, but I don't think that anyone has been caught out by anything as we head through there. But it is Elliot Heller who leads this race, and Imran has had an absolutely awful start.
It looked like going around that first corner, he just got a little bit loose. And, with that Ford, it's quite a wide, heavy fellow. So once you start to lose that rear end, it can be quite hard to gather it up.
Absolutely. It can be very tricky indeed. I think we have a yellow flag out in Sector 1. Gonna have a little look back and see what happened there. But this has been a great start for David Schilling in that pro class, as Elliot in front of him isn't going to be scoring any points, so he's not particularly going to need to speed past them at any rate of knots, and that is certainly going to fill him nicely, especially with Imran heading a little bit further back. We have lost timings temporarily there, but it will all get fixed as we come across the start-finish line. Looks like we've got Sven Altman here coming around Sunset Corner. Is everybody making it through okay? Looks like they have, as Sven is racing alongside McLaren there, who had a little bit of a wiggle and look up the inside, but no move to be made as they're sat behind Timo Gartner, who has lost a place from that. And actually Timo Gartner and Costa, who were P1 and 2 in the Pro-Am class, have lost quite a few places. We're going to have a little look at that a bit in a minute. Let's have a look at our overall standings, and as you can see, off that starts Elliot Heller, who is P1, followed by David Schilling, and then Thomas Critchell in the Porsche, Robin Wist further back, Mikey Rogers even further back than that, actually, who is scoring points in this pro class and could take points off of our championship competitors. Indeed, it's Sven Altman who is behind João Costa here, and they were very close in times with Timo Gartner, who is right in front of them. I would like to see what happens once this race calms down, because they've got Michael Rhodes right behind them, and I don't think that's exactly where they expected to be at the beginning of this race. However, chaotic it was.
Yeah, it definitely got a little pack there through T1 going into the, second and third corners. But out of all the races, this might have been one of the cleaner ones that we've seen, which is a little surprising.
Absolutely. I can see on my display here that there might have been an incident for Stefan Heinrich and potentially Jeffrey Damon going off the track, but I will have a little look at that later on, as I believe Imran has been catching his way up back to the Pro Pack, but does have Thomas Critchell right behind him in that Porsche and is challenging for him. Maybe that Porsche is doing a little bit better in the in race trim with full fuel on board compared to Imran, who obviously was P1 and pole overall in our qualifying, and you can start to see Elliot and David. David, I think, there is using Elliot for a little bit of slipstream, save some fuel, and by not battling, they've able to eke out close to a 2-second gap on this pack, and I think maybe particularly Robin Wist there will want to get past these two very quickly indeed.
Yeah, David and Elliot are in a kind of a particular situation where Elliot's not really fighting for points. David's already in first in his class, so the smart decision would be to sit behind Elliot, save some fuel, stretch out that pit stop, and see if he can hold that lead as long as possible.
Absolutely, and I think that yeah, 2-second gap it is now. It's really not doing great for Robin Wist, who is right on the back of Thomas Critchell there in that Porsche, and looks like he's trying to set up a move because he can't afford to just sit behind cars in this race. He has to make his way forward up towards that leading pack if he wants any hopes of getting a good championship position and those all-important prizes come season end. Of course, all of those drop rounds taking into account there as well. But Tom Critchell isn't really in that championship fight, as he's missed quite a few rounds this season. And the first round of the season, well, you remember, if you are a regular viewer, that he ended up in the barriers and not scoring too many points at all. Robin in behind Critchell. Looks like he might have looked on the inside, going through Sunset Corner. Tom going very wide, using all the track he possibly could there to defend. But for now, Robin sits behind Tom in this battle. And actually, even Imran in front of them now is starting to pull away. So it is becoming a critical situation for the 204 car to end up in front of someone who isn't really in championship contention, in Tom Critchell, who bounced off the curb, and it's going to be Robin West who goes up the inside. Can Tom get a bit more speed as he goes around the outside? It looks like he's pretty comprehensively lost that place, and he might be allowed to lose that place to Mikey Rogers as well. As around the outside, as we head down to the hairpin, it's that purple DWR car. Mikey Rogers on the outside, Tom Critchell on the inside. I think Tom Critchell is going to close him off, but is the switchback going to be able to do anything? No, not on this particular occasion.
Yeah, that hairpin corner can be really hard to make a pass, especially if you're on the outside, because right after that corner, you have that little S at the end, which gives that inside line a good position to cut him off, force him to slow down, and sit back behind him for at least that next straight or two.
Absolutely, and it looks like Tom Critchell making just a small bit of a gap, 0.4 of a second, back to Mikey Rogers, less under threat than he was before. But you do have those two wildcard drivers right on their back as well, waiting to step in should anything go untoward. And they're forming quite a little bit of a train here, which Robin West is leading, but for how much longer? And now this race has calmed down a little bit. Let's have a little look at what happened at the beginning of this race. Particularly, I want to have a look at Jeffrey Damon, who had an incident. He's coming down to the hairpin here, and he has a car on the inside, and it looks like he turned in on him, but I'd like to have a look at another angle of that, potentially from the top. Doesn't look like it did too much damage, but yeah, you had João Costa and Timo Gartner in there as well, swapping places. Let's have a little look from down here, and actually, I take that back. I don't think he really turned in on a car. I think that number 11 was maybe a little bit opportunistic, because Jeffrey was slowing down for the car in front, and the car's in front having a battle, and I'm not sure he'd particularly be expecting a dive bomb on the first lap there. But the stewards will certainly want to review that, but I don't think that it's done him any damage there. I saw Stefan Heinrich as well having a crash on this opening lap. Let's see, he was just behind JC Sawyer, and that is a very strange place to lose the car there. Of course, there's not really much turning going on, and nobody hit him there. Have a little look on board from his cockpit view, and I think the traction just kind of got out from under him, and I think very lucky to avoid the barrier there as well. As actually,
I think you're right. That's one of those cold tire situations right there.
I'm actually seeing on our screens, it looks like Thomas Critchell has been for a bit of a spin in his Porsche, and he's fully sideways, and he's gone into the barrier, but only very slightly. It's a little bit like what happened in Daytona, where he just lost his car and he almost got pushed along there. But actually, that looks a lot worse than it first saw, and I think that rear wheel of that Porsche is no longer connected to the accelerator.
It was enough to give him a meatball, and unfortunately with where he towed at, he's towing right after turn 1, so he's going to get almost the maximum amount of tow time to get
and
that car
Thorns
back
into the
around
wall as well. We've lost a bit of vision from that TV camera. Let's see if we can't get another one. But he was out here on his wildcard round, and I think he catches the curb with a bit too much power, and that's gone in quite hard. Indeed, Thomas Critchell and Thorn both back in the pit lane. This race has not really started too well for them at all, has it?
It doesn't look like it. It looks like it may be a little bit of this cool track giving him a little bit of overconfidence, thinking maybe they can throttle a little early, catch the stickiness of the track, and, Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That back end will slide out on you, and then especially in this track with how tight it can be, sometimes it's hard to get a handle back on it. Once it's gone, you're kind of just along for the ride.
Absolutely, and actually going quite well in this race was Tom Critchell before he ended up with that meatball flag. Of course, he does have his fast repair, but does have to pay all of that time penalty for being in the pit lane and also getting himself back out on track with that tow. And we're watching the 90 car here of H-Elite, who is behind Brinker in the 93, who is behind the 25 of Mikey Rogers, and that 5-car train, which Robin Wist was leading, with Thomas Critchell going into the wall, has now ended up a 3-car train, as Robin Wist has pulled away, and I think Mikey Rogers maybe needed a new pair of underpants before he saw Tom Critchell going sideways and not wanting to hit him.
Yeah, that's a really tough corner to be behind someone who's spinning like that. It's kind of it's a faster, not as tight of a corner as a lot of the other ones on this track. So once you get behind a car that's spinning, you can't really hit the brakes too hard or you're going to spin yourself. So you kind of got to just let off the throttle, turn your car in, and hope that you can keep enough grip to get out of their way.
Absolutely. And there is Thomas Critchell actually rejoining the race. And he's come out just in this little pack here. And he is a lap down, but he's currently in front of a wildcard driver, so maybe he won't be feeling too keen to let him pass at the first opportunity. And of course, as we saw from earlier in this race, he does have the speed to compete with these drivers. He's battling with Mikey Rogers and Robin Wist. So I think he's going to stay out there and battle because he's not exactly going to be holding them up.
I think so, 100%. I mean, you're in a position where, you're racing, you're out, you're quick enough to stick with the leading pack. There's not really a lot of straights or anything for these cars to get speed and get by you. So as long as you can keep stability on those cold tires, he's probably going to be able to hold that spot.
Absolutely. And Brinker and Rogers here looking like they're going for a little bit of a battle, and it almost might say that's holding Thomas Critchell up from unlapping himself, but no move to be made yet. But is he going to be able to use this McLaren speed in the slipstream? McLaren on McLaren here as they head out in front on this particular lap down that back straight, going nice and wide here, try and pick up as much speed through the apex as possible. But it sounded like he needed a second stab at the throttle there, and isn't really gaining a great amount of time on Mikey Rogers. He's going to have to probably stick a nose up the inside, and as Zach was saying, that is a very dangerous move around this track, especially around that sunset corner that's so fast and pretty blind to most of these drivers. If you're not on a extremely wide angle setup, and they both make it through as they were through Sunset Corner to start lap number 8 of this race, and it's going to be now coming up to an 8-second gap to the leading pair for these lot. A 10-second gap, excuse me. The leaders have managed to pull quite far away in this particular battle.
Yeah, this is one of those tracks, if you can get yourself into a nice little groove with a drafting partner, you're able to pull away pretty quick, especially if you're able to keep it nice and steady around these corners. It ends up working out for you pretty well. Yeah,
and I think as well, you said it there, that David is just kind of sitting behind Elliott here, using him to save a bit of fuel, not battle, and that's worked really well to let them pull away. And whole field right now within 40 seconds of each other after this opening 15 minutes. João Costa is very far back. I can't see anything on my screens to indicate that he's been in a crash. In fact, that's qualifying that I can see there, not the race section. I'm not sure.
He did have himself a little spin, maybe about 3-4 laps ago.
That is.
Let me see if I can go back on mine. I can give you that exact lap. It looks like lap 2 He had a little bit of an incident coming out of the sunset corner that caused him to get a little bit of a spin there.
Oh, I can see it now, actually. Let's go and have a look at what happened to João Costa. He was right behind Timo Gartner. He's carried a bit too much speed. I think he might have shifted down a bit too fast. That's a very high-speed track. And that is a horrible place to see a car that's facing you. And João did move forward, but I'm not sure he really moved himself back onto the track. I think James Vernon behind was carrying more speed than he realised with a car behind him there. I want to see that on board, because that snapped almost instantly for him there. I couldn't really see any warning. Let's have a look. He's coming in.
It looks like he gets right up on the back of this Porsche and gives him a little tap, and it looks like that might have been what sent him around.
I think that might well have been what happened. I don't think he was expecting Timo Gartner, and yeah, you don't want to see another car coming there. See it on board from James Vernon's view, who would have had a yellow flag, can see the smoke. He moves, but yeah, he kind of had nowhere to go apart from go around the other side of Costa there, because yeah, he's ended up in the wall but by having to go around him. But doesn't look like too much damage done in that particular case, and I wouldn't imagine that the stewards would be wanting to have a look at that one, because I don't think Costa really made his way back onto the track. He was still over the white line. It was more of a fact of James going a bit wider and carrying a bit more speed than he's expected. But Andy Keane in the AM class looks like he's had an incident as well. Let's have a little look at what's happened to him on board. He's coming around here and gets a bit too much power and sends himself facing towards the barrier, but only a little kiss.
Yeah, this is one of those like interesting tracks where on certain corners, having that target fixation can actually cause you a lot of problems here, more than it would in other tracks, just due to how blind some of these corners
Jeffrey
are.
Damon's had a wiggle coming out of Sunset Corner, and now Carsten Walter's going to be alongside him as we head down into Turn 1. Is he going to take the lead of that Pro-Am class? Yes, he is. Past Jeffrey Damon, into the lead into Turn 1, and he is now in first place for his class. And quite a nice move for Walter there. He saw the little wiggle from Jeffrey Damon's car and decided that was enough to get him powering alongside in that Porsche and keep going. But I don't think Jeffrey Damon will want to be sticking behind him for too long, as in the background there you can see Timo Gartner and Sven Altman coming down to the hairpin corner. Thought that Altman was looking for a little move there, but I think he decided against it. And quite a few cars sliding around on this track surface. Just saw the 12 car coming out of the hairpin, getting a slide on traction. This cold track temperature, which is unusual for this track, is really catching some drivers out.
I think you're right. It's very interesting, because in the right circumstances, if you're able to build up enough heat in those tires, you know, the track can be quite sticky, but at the same time, it can be quite unforgiving if you end up falling out of that race line a little bit and onto that nice, slick, cold track. You know, that rear end will get around on you pretty quickly.
Absolutely. And we've seen quite a few drivers fall foul of that already. And having a little look, it's going to be Jeffrey Damon right now, who's trying to get that P1 back from Carsten Walter. 59 versus 13, and Porsche versus Mercedes, two very different cars in iRacing. Coming around Sunset Corner, Jeffrey Damon will be hoping he doesn't get that little wiggle he got last time. They go far out to the wall, and Jeffrey Damon is right in the slipstream of Walter here. He is sticking to the inside. Damon goes to the outside. What's the order going to be as we come through turn 1? It looks like Jeffrey's still going to be far behind, but he's going to have a bit of a run heading down towards turn 2. Off to the inside goes Walter, defending hard through this little section of corners, and they're having a fantastic battle here. And it's going to be Walter who stays in front for now as they make their way down to that hairpin corner. One of those great overtaking spots if you can get yourself on the inside as you gain such an advantage on the way out. Is Jeffrey going to make a dive here? No, he's going to stick behind and wait for the next lap for his next opportunity to get past.
It's interesting to see a battle between two cars that are so different. The Porsche is very stable, very good through the corners, and with the Mercedes, you got to brake a little bit earlier, but that exit speed in that car can be quite massive.
Absolutely. Very different cars to drive, very different cars to race as well. As we can see on our timing tower that ooh, and Walter goes wide off the track there, picking up some dust for good measure, and this might be Jeffrey Damon's opportunity to get past as he sweeps around the outside. That's going to become the inside here. He's going to be up the inside, but he's still got a car alongside him, so he can't go all the way out. But now the order is Damon, Walter, as we head onto that back straight. Is that Porsche going to be able to help pick anything up in the slipstream as they head down towards Sunset Corner, the final tricky corner of this track? Is there going to be anything here? I think that Porsche might be a bit too far back, kind of reeling a little bit in for that mistake in the dirt. And once again, we're back to the same order of a few laps ago in that Pro-Am class. And someone who is not sticking together is Elliot Heller, who's been passed by David Chilling, and I think he might be about to be passed by Imran as well. I can't see any particular issue he's had. I think he might just have been raced through that first corner. And Imran is right on the back of Elliot Heller here. Is he going to make a little look up the inside, or is he just going to stick behind for now? But David Chilling has finally made his way past Elliot Heller into P1 in this race.
This track can be quite punishing. If you get a bad exit, a little wiggle, there's not really a whole lot of straight or a whole lot of places to make that speed up. So if that happens right when you get into one of those corners, you're kind of giving yourself up to that car behind.
Absolutely, and I think that Elliot might become under threat here as we head onto those straightaways, because if there's one thing that Mustang is known for, it has some real grunt in a straight line and might be able to get past before that tricky Sunset Corner. I want to ride on board with Imran here and see what he's able to do through this final couple of corners. Let's see if he is able to get a better exit. He's pulled up just a little bit on Elliot here. He gets the power down, and that gap is coming down just under 0.3 of a second now. But I don't think he's going to close in enough. I think he's going to have to make a real dive and hope that Elliot goes for it, or wait for Elliot to make a mistake coming out of Sunset. But that Mustang's going to be a bit tricky out of here, especially over those bumps, and the gap is actually extended as you head through there. And I think for now he's just going to have to stick behind Elliot and continue his race next time around. And of course,
yeah, Sunset can be a real pain for those heavier cars. When you get over those bumps, it's, you have a lot of weight, but it kind of makes that car move up and down a little bit more than you'd like.
Well, and of course, Elliot has the advantage. Now he's behind David. He's able to pick up some of his slipstream as well, so he's not completely on his own. Which will certainly help him down the straights as... We'll come back to that battle in a little bit, but it's Sven Altman again, who is right behind Timo Gartner, both competing in that Pro-Am class. But I think they're both going to want to catch up to that Walter and Damon battle in front of them, and see what happens to them. As Sven Altman gets off track there, going through the dirt. It wouldn't surprise me, just seeing some of the incidents we've seen in this race, if we don't see a few more black flags than we have otherwise this season. I see that I think João Costa might have been for another crash, or was that the original crash before? Because it's also involved James Vernon. Let's have a little look. No, this is a completely different part of the track, and he just goes for a little spin at the hairpin and drives himself forward, and he has got some damage to the front of that Acura. And actually doesn't involve James Vernon at all. It looks like he had a completely separate incident on the entry to the same corner. He might have just gone for a bit of a slide. Oh, I don't think he was expecting a car up his inside there. And I think he might just go off the track a little bit, seeing the yellow flags and maybe a little bit of apprehension from earlier on in this race.
Yeah, that hairpin can be quite deceiving. You think you can take, you can take a good amount of curb over it, but there's quite a big drop off on the other side of that rubber. So if you get your tires a little bit too far to the right, you'll get that bottom of the car that'll bottom out and it'll grab the rear end and turn you right around.
Of course, notwithstanding the fact there's quite a lot of places for you to get in the dirt there, and you just completely lose all traction on one side of your car. It can be very difficult to kind of recover from once it's started.
Absolutely.
Well, we've maybe approached a little moment of calm in this race, as no audacious moves going on the track so far. I am seeing from my race control that quite a lot of cars have been getting off track. I can see we've got Taylor in the world class, James Vernon, Sven Altman, Carsten Walter, Mikey Rogers, Stefan Heinrich, Taylor again, Sven and Mikey Rogers again actually. They're all pushing quite hard to end up with off tracks, and there's such a fine line around this track from having your wheel on the very edge of that blue and white curbing to being just over the line and picking yourself up and off track. And when we have had battles as close as we've seen, as David Schilling, he spun into that corner as we head onto the back straight. That is an absolute disaster from the lead for him. I want to go and have a look at exactly how that happened. We weren't expecting that. He comes over the curb and he just catches it and goes flying backwards, but luckily managed to keep it out of the wall. But he's going to have to fight his way back up if he wants to get anywhere near that first place again.
Yep, the same thing we were talking about earlier. The drop off on those curbs can be quite massive. If you get that bottom of the car on there, it's almost like you're skateboarding. You do a little 50-50 and all of a sudden you get grip on the tires again and, you're not ready for it.
Absolutely on board. And yeah, you can see that is exactly what happened. He just became a complete skateboard through there and had to watch his two rivals drive off into the distance. He rejoined the track. He's still P1 overall in his class, I should apologise, not overall, but he is now going to be 6 seconds back from being the overall winner in this race. And I guess for a little bit, that has left our two world-class drivers at the front be able to fight it out, as once again, a little slide from Elliott there coming out of the hairpin.
Yeah, and like we talked about earlier, there's not a lot of straights on this track. So when you spin out like he did coming out of the Le Mans corner, you end up losing massive amounts of time, because that entire straight where you'd normally be at your top end, you're just trying to catch that speed back up, trying to get your momentum back, and it can be quite painful.
Absolutely, and it is a very unique corner down there where you go very wide, you go over the white line to pick up as much speed as possible, and you very much end up having to regain so much speed through there, as I believe that's Stefan Heinrich. I think I saw a bit of bodywork on the side of the track from Heinrich actually before these two cars made their way through, and this was the place I saw it, and that's the place that Heinrich had gone for a spin as he lets through our leading drivers. And yeah, I heard a little bit of a bonk there as he went backwards into the barrier. And well, when we were seeing him live, he didn't have a rear bumper on that car, and that's exactly where it's gone.
That can also be another one of those really painful corners as well. As we saw there, you've got the wall that kind of breaks open to that exit, and you got a lot more room to kind of let the car spin. And it looks like he got just unlucky enough to catch the end of that closer wall.
Absolutely, and Stefan Heinrich once again causing a yellow flag in Sector 1. I think that car might be a little bit less drivable than he thought. I think that he might have to tow that back to pit lane, because yeah, he's just spinning all over the place. Because well, I can see the exposed mechanics of the back of his car there. But I don't think he has reset himself to the pit lane. I think he still might be going around for now. But he might want to pit to get that damage, as he's having Mikey Rogers catch up to the back of him and lap him. Of course, you don't want to get yourself involved in the battle for the pro drivers. And we can see Thomas Critchell looking to unlap himself here, back on the back of the wildcard driver of Brinker. He's dropped off from that from the Mikey Rogers train. Who's managed to pull a 3-second gap here. But of course, Brinker isn't competing for any points in this championship. He is a wild card entry. And Tom Critchell's 1 lap down. So I don't think there's really any sort of etiquette required between either of these drivers here. But it's going to be interesting to see how hard they battle for what is no points and no prizes, as they are now behind Stefan Heinrich, and going to be wanting him to quickly let them through, because even if there's no pleasantries involved between these two drivers, they still want to have a good battle and not get that lapped and very damaged car involved at all. And I think he might back off the power here into Sunset and let them through, and indeed he does.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you get these mixed classes, you know, because you have a lot of decisions to make. Is it worth trying to fight and keep this spot? Sometimes, you know, with Tom being behind there and Mikey Rogers being in front, it might be worth it for him to let him go fight with Mikey and let him close that gap back up so he can get back in that fight.
Well, after half an hour in this race, we are seeing our first round of pit stops. We've got Elliot Heller from the race lead. We've got Mikey Rogers, Jeffrey Damon, and Timo Gartner all into the pits. I wonder if they are trying a little bit of an undercut of the cars in front of them, and hoping to gain a bit of speed. Of course, Heller doesn't have anybody to undercut, but maybe to get a bit of a bit more pace in there to pull away from Imran if they pit on different laps. And try and pull away. But all those other drivers, you see Michael Rhodes is in, JT Sawyer is in, Felix Costa is in as well. So it looked like it's very much coming up to fuel time for those drivers, and maybe expecting 1 or potentially 2 laps before we see the rest of the field in. I will try and bring you the information about how long everyone's been on their pit strategies as soon as I can. Of course, everybody who hasn't pit so far is obviously been that same 17 laps on their tyres and their fuel. And hopefully, in just a brief moment, I press the right button. There we go. You can see which drivers are fighting for position and which have been into the pit lane. One of them who has been into the pit lane already, but not for a scheduled pit stop, Thomas Critchell, is going to be able to stay out when this pack around him all pit. And that is going to be both the car in front of him and the car behind him. Are they both going to head to the pit lane at the same time? Yes, they are. And that frees Thomas Critchell to just go out, do some hot laps, and see if he can't overcut them by the time that he has to come into the pit lane for his next pit stop. But it looks like Imran, David, and Robin Wist have all stayed out another lap. While Brinker, H. Lee, Walter, they're all in the pit lane. Andy Keane, he is not near the pit lane right now, but I'd imagine he's very close to coming into the pits. And I think, as you can see, that everyone has been in the pits, apart from those leading 3 and Andy Keane, as I said, and they've all been on those tyres and fuel for 18 laps, and that's going to be interesting come the end of this race, because we've only just made it past the half an hour mark, but they're on reduced fuel tanks today, so we might be looking at 3 stops.
Yeah, I think you're right. 3 stops is seeming like, you know, might be it, maybe even a splash at the end. We'll see if, you know, Tom's able to make up any ground here being on that off-pit strategy due to, you know, his meatball. So we'll see if that either helps him or maybe towards the end of the race it might cause him to have to take even another extra stop for fuel. And is that going to hurt him even more?
That would be quite disappointing. It hasn't worked out particularly well for Mikey Rogers. He's come out of the pits behind H. Lee, behind Brinker as well. And just having a little look at the timings, just under 20 seconds off the lead, or our net leader, should I say, in Elliot Heller. And Mikey Rogers is going to be on slightly warmer tyres here by a lap than that 90 Porsche you can see. So he's going to have to make a move on track in order to make his way past him and regain that position, but he's gone sideways and he's just managed to save it, I think, but he is over the grass, and that is not going to help him in his pursuit after that Porsche, but that was quite the save from Mikey Rogers, I think.
Yeah, you got to give him credit for that one. He kept the car from doing a full 360, kept it facing the right direction, so, you know, of all the mistakes that could be made, that is definitely one of the lesser ones he's going to have to worry about today.
Absolutely. Let's have another look at that one. He was right up behind the Porsche, and he just goes sideways. Didn't hit a curb or any grass or anything. I think it's just the effect of that cold track and relatively cold tyres. But I think for a moment it was very much looking like he was heading into the barriers. Let's watch on board. He's on the slide, and all you can see is barrier, 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 and he manages to keep it out, as we've seen. And once again, it's Carsten Walter and Jeffrey Damon. Sorry for interrupting you there, Zach, but we've just had a pass for the lead of the Pro-Am class as Jeffrey Damon makes his way through on Carsten Walter, but Walter goes round the outside, and I think Jeffrey might have either had a really bad entry or slowed down for some reason there. We only just caught the beginning of that overtake, not sure if anything happened before, but they are battling really hard for P1 in that Pro-Am class.
Yeah, you know, they're both on their first and second lap out, so those tires are still a little bit cold. I wonder if Jeffrey coming around that corner felt the car start to lose a little bit, and so made the choice to let off versus staying on that throttle and potentially causing a spin for both drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. I can very much see that happening on fresh, cold tires, full fuel tanks, or as full as they can be in this format. He very much could have been experiencing a bit of a slide. Of course, they've not really been on tyres this cold since the start of the race, and the kind of the muscle memory that you have of driving the car at full pelt on hot tyres and on you know, a slightly different surface than you were before. It certainly could unsettle the mind, and you end up with those kind of slides sideways, as we saw for both Mikey Rogers and maybe Jeffrey Damon there as well, as he is looking very much to pass Carsten Walter here as they come onto that back straight. Not a car well renowned for its straight line speed is the Porsche. Are we going to see another attempt at an overtake here from Jeffrey Damon? He's gaining, but he doesn't look like he's gaining enough, but it all comes at the end of the straight, and maybe hoping that Walter here makes a bit of a mistake, has a bit of a slide by himself. Jeffrey going wider through Sunset there, and doesn't look like there was any particular move, but actually I think Jeffrey Damon is alongside. Let's go back to that battle, and it's Jeffrey Damon, Walter on the inside. Is he going to make a move stick? They're side by side into turn one. Very difficult corner to not pick normal racing line on, and they're still side by side heading down into two and into three here. But it's going to be Walter on the inside and pushes Jeffrey Damon out a bit, but he's still able to stay there on that curb on the outside. He's on the outside, so he's going to get a better run as we head down towards that hairpin corner. And he looks a little bit far back, 0.6 of a second to make any sort of move. I think he actually lost out some time there by going into the dirt, and it's going to stay as is. But these boys are fighting hard in very different vehicles in that Pro-Am class. Oh, there's some good battles going on today.
They are definitely, I don't think any one of these drivers are going to give up an end. It's the last race of the season. It's your last chance to grab as many points as you can. You know, so it's, I think we're definitely seeing that on the track today.
Absolutely. Jeffrey Damon is dropping a little bit further back, maybe kind of resetting his tyres, resetting his brain a little bit in order to gain some of that time back. And you can see, I think that's Stefan Heinrich, who is right in front of them. who's going to be a lapped car. Of course, lap cars can try their very best to get there out of your way as quickly as possible, but they always will affect you a little bit, even if it's just mentally, and you can't send it as hard into that corner because there's a slower lap car in front of you. And actually, you can see in the background there that this little battle has done wonders for Timo Gartner, who's only 5 seconds off the back of this lead now. He has been a formidable force, especially in the opening rounds. I'm thinking certainly Daytona, we went to the Nürburgring, all of those kinds of tracks. He's been a formidable force in that Porsche. He's come across now some tracks he's less familiar with, less practiced on, but I still don't think he's to be discounted in this race today. And indeed, this battle rages on with a little bit less intensity, just for the moment, as we've still got an hour and 20 minutes to go in this race. We're just over a third through 21 of 61 projected laps. That might come down by a lap or two, as everybody is going to have to make probably 2 additional pit stops in this race, just given 18 laps for most people on their first set of tyres and first fuel load. And it's going to be interesting to see who takes tyres and who doesn't. Of course, very punishing track on tyres, even with these colder temperatures. And come the end of that race, we might see a little bit of a battle between those that decided to take fresh tyres and those that decided to stay out on an older set, and see whose strategy comes out on top. And I think that might be different depending on what class you're in as well. Let's have a little look at what's been happening down the rest of the field. Thomas Critchell, of course, he has taken a pit stop in this race, but it was for a meatball. He's now back on the lead lap of this race. 10 seconds behind Felix Costa. Andy Keane, 13 seconds behind him. Michael Rhodes now is leading that AM class. 14 seconds between him and his closest challenger in JT Sawyer. Looks like, unfortunately, both Stefan Heinrichs and James Vernon have gone a lap down on the overall leader. So something tells me that Michael Rhodes is at least for now on course for staying in that P1 and taking 6 for 6 victories in that AM class there. I know he's signed up to the next season of the Darkwing Racing Endurance Championship, and maybe we have seen throughout this season that the AM class might very well not be for him, as Stefan Heinrichs there letting through both Walter and Damon, and their gap now is 1.1 seconds, and has definitely cooled down a little bit in intensity just for now.
Yeah, looks like we're going to get just a second to take a breather here while these drivers try to figure out what their next move is going to be.
Absolutely. They need a bit of a mental break, as well as one for their cars, for their tyres, for their fuel. Of course, if you're pushing so hard, you're using so much more fuel, and that might upset your strategy. Talking of Season 1, bam, you can sign up, if you're watching right now, to Season 1 of the Darkwing Racing Endurance Championship. We are, unlike this Season 0, open to external drivers from wherever you are in the world. Whatever sim racing team, if you are part of one, you can come join us for Season 1, which starts in just under a month's time. On the 1st of February, we're going to be starting off in Spa. If you're watching on a TV, please do scan that QR code. If you're on mobile or PC, there is a link at the very top of the description for you to join, get all the information that you need to make a decision, and sign up in our Discord. So thank you very much if you do indeed plan on doing that and joining this grid of great drivers, as Jeffrey Damon off the road there, very wide indeed. Must have been a little bit caught out by how much speed he has. No damage done apart from receiving a 1x and building up his incident count. He certainly won't be getting his 0x extra point at the end of this race after that one.
Yeah, this is one of those tracks where you lose focus for even a fraction of a second, and it can be quite hard, going into those corners to keep it on that tarmac.
Absolutely, especially we're heading into the evening time here, and a little bit like we experienced at Le Mans, you're going to start getting that sun dropping into your eye line, and that is going to change where you won't be able to see your braking points so much anymore. You will, it'll be much more difficult to keep as consistent as you were. And I've seen Thomas Critchell's lost about 6 seconds to Felix Costa there. Let's go and have a little look at what's happened to him. It's another turn 1 for Tom, and he's going sideways in that Porsche, four-wheel drift, and so close to getting collected into the barrier. Very, very lucky for him, I think. And once again, another driver succumbing to a slide in this race. It really has caught a lot of these drivers out in a way we really haven't seen this season. Let's have another look at an angle for that, and his slide actually happens there, and yeah, you can see it from the static TV camera there. That is not the ideal racing line for turn 1, but he had no one behind him, no one in front of him, so no real damage done in that respect.
Yeah, I think these cooler temperatures are giving these drivers a lot of false confidence, let's say, is like, it can feel really grippy, but that snap understeer can be, quite a demon when it comes to these cooler tracks. And looking at the temperature now, we're down to 21.7. So it's definitely not getting any warmer out there as we approach the evening time.
Absolutely. And it is... as we were saying just before we saw Tom slide off the road, that sun level isn't going to help you either, as Stefan Heinrich has got themselves a slow down penalty. Only very briefly though. Let's see what's happened to them. They're laps down, and I think they might have just gone off the road there. Yes, they have. They've just taken a little drive into the grass, cool those tyres down, and continues on their way. As you can see, Timo Gartner going through there in the background. And, well, Jeffrey Damon really has lost quite a bit off the back of Carsten Walter there. They are, well, we're fighting very hard for position just a few laps ago, but 2 seconds now the gap. And not sure if from Jeffrey here, he's trying to save a bit of fuel, and maybe he has double stinted his tyres. I'm not completely sure to see whether he's having to nurse them a little bit. Of course, we saw he had that slide out of Sunset, and heavy car is the Mercedes, so maybe just trying to avoid that spin, which we've seen ruin so many different drivers' races today. And Thomas Critchell goes back down to being a lap behind the overall race leader, who we haven't seen a massive amount in this race, but is Elliot Heller, who leads by 1 second, or just about, from Imran, and then David Schilling, who's in behind by 5 seconds. I want to have a little look at their average laps over time. Oh, they've just been in within the past 5 laps, I believe, or so, at their pit stop. So we'll have a little bit of a look at their average times once those lap times have shaken themselves back out again into the right place, and have a look. Looks like everybody's just having a nice chill Sunday drive for now, as we approach the final hour and 10 minutes of not only this race but also this championship season.
Yeah, it seems like everybody has kind of, stepped back a little bit, and we're kind of in that lull of the mid-race where everyone's going to kind of stick to their spot, kind of refigure out this cooling track. And then maybe in that last, 45 minutes or so, they'll start to really try to push again and get those positions that they're going to need.
Absolutely, and looks like Mikey Rogers, who came out of the pit lane right behind H. Lee, is going to go up the inside in Sunset Corner. Lovely move up the inside, very clean and simple, but H. Lee isn't going to give it up just for now as we come through turn 1. Is there going to be any sort of move up the inside? No, not for now. Maybe not wanting to get himself involved in that pro battle, but that moves Mikey Rogers up to P6 overall, and he's only 3 seconds behind the other world-class driver of Brinker, and can set right after him.
One thing I've learned with this track too is you got to have a lot of trust in your car and a lot of knowledge of these corners. So many of them are blind. You really have to know the entrance, know the speed and the weight of the car, or, by the time you're able to see that exit, you may be heading a little bit too close to that wall.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got to have that that same trust of another car alongside you if you're racing for position, or even in front and behind as well. You've very much got to have a lot of trust on this circuit. You can see there's a few kind of tyre marks on the exit of that corner. It doesn't take too much to put yourself into the dirt there and send yourself spinning. And indeed, lots of trust required at this track, and of your other competitors as well.
A lot of people know from experience this isn't the not the smoothest of track surfaces as you're going around. There's a lot of bumps, a lot of little hidden valleys in there that if you don't know where they're at and you hit them randomly, it can spook you out a little bit and either cause you to go wide or sometimes cause those spins that we've been seeing as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially if you're on a direct drive wheel or wheelbase, should I say? You can feel all of the little bumps across the surface here. Of course, very famously, the Brink former airfield. So not a pristine flat, new build racetrack either. So yeah, a few of those bumps from kind of over time, it's going to catch you out at some point or another. Right, we might well be able to have a little look at the average lap times throughout the field, and we can see Elliot Heller is actually just under a tenth slower per lap of Imran, but I feel like they haven't really been making any sort of moves together, so I think he might just be sticking behind and saving a bit of fuel. David Schilling, P1 in the Pro class, he is a couple tenths further back from them, and then Robin Wist a couple of extra tenths further back, and then you have kind of a bit more of a void as we head back towards Brinker. A 1:59.1 is his average lap time at the moment, and then Mikey Rogers is going to make gains on him, but very slowly, 0.2 of a second faster on average, with a 58.9, and then HC behind actually has quite a lot slower average lap time than Mikey Rogers on a 59.7, and is actually slower than the leader of the Pro-Am class of Walter, who's averaging a 59.5. Jeffrey Damon, as we said, he's been dropping back from the back of Walter. He's doing 59.8 right now. And then we're into the 2-minute window with Timo Gartner and Sven Altman reasonably close on times, but Altman faster than Gartner, so should be pulling up on him, and even faster than JT Sawyer is Michael Rhodes by just about 0.2 of a second, and then Costa, who had that spin and a few accidents at the beginning of this race, is a second off of the back of JT Sawyer, and is lapping quite a bit faster, a second per lap than the McLaren driver, and maybe this is going to be a little bit of evolution to watch, although Costa has quite the gap to gain, just under 30 seconds or so, if he's going to want to catch up with those in his other class. And I think he might need to skip a pit stop in order to achieve that at this stage, because he's lapping about the same as Timo and the number 12 car as well.
Yeah, I think the tire decisions on this track can be very interesting, because you're going to take enough fuel where, you kind of get that free set of tires regardless, but, you're not really using a whole lot of tire in that front, in that first stint that you're driving with them. But through that second stint, that tire drop-off can be quite massive. So by the time you get to the end of that second stint on those old tires, you could be babying them pretty hard to make sure you're making it around these corners.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see, João Costa up the inside of JT there. Doesn't look like JT fought it particularly hard. Costa having quite the faster lap time than JT, and they're not even in the same class, so I think he probably backed out on the thought that he doesn't want to lose any time, or maybe pick up a bit of damage with a spin or a collection of Costa there. And we got a yellow flag in sector number 3. It's going to be Stefan Heinrichs again, unfortunately, who looks like he might have gone for a bit of an accident. He's in front of Timo Gartner here, and he just goes for a spin all by himself on power. That Aston Martin, for him at the very least, has not been treating him very well throughout this race, as I think that might be the 3rd or 4th spin we've seen. But actually quite a nice spin round to collect himself back down the straight, with a little bit of bonk on the front of that car.
Yeah, a lot of these, these front engine heavier cars, they can be really good on this track, but you got to be particularly, knowledgeable of these corners and where you're going, because, we were talking about those bumps earlier, and especially on those heavier cars going on that exit into the straight, you hit a couple of those little bumps and it can really make the rear of that car unsteady. And you get on power a little bit too early with all those bumps, next thing you know, your rear end's looking the other way.
Yeah, absolutely. And have a little overview as well of our winners and losers so far in this race. Elliot Heller qualified P3, currently running P1 overall right now. David down 1, Imran also down 1. A big gain from Carsten Walter overall, up 5 positions. Jeffrey Damon also up 3 positions overall. Timo Gartner is going to be down 1. I think the biggest loss of positions is going to be 11 places for Thomas Critchell, who unfortunately went for that quite costly spin and got himself a meatball down at turn 1. Really has put him back in that pack of cars that are 1 lap down. We compare that to where they are in their class. It doesn't look quite so bad for Thomas Critchell, only down 1 position overall. Mikey Rogers taking that place back off him. But it's Timo Gartner, Sven Altman and João Costa all lost 2, 1 and 3 positions respectively in this race. Everybody else sticking pretty stable. Andy Keane up 2, James Vernon down 2, and the wild cards swapping places between Imran and Elliot as it stands currently. And coming around that final set of corners now is João Costa, 30 seconds off of his other class compatriot, and is going to have to do an awful lot of work in order to catch up and gain anything on that 5th place that he has right now. But of course, some drivers, it's the end of the season, especially if they don't feel they're particularly in the championship fight, haven't shown up this evening, and it's still going to be a healthy haul of points for P5.
It looks like we're just about to approach the halfway mark here in about 10 seconds. Watching these drivers in their, their current laps, it's looking to me like you're going to get about another full pit stop, full fuel, and then maybe just a little under a full tank on that last pit. So it's going to make me wonder how many people are going to take nice new fresh tires on this stop and then maybe skip those tires in that last stop, just take fuel and try and get out there on a nice warm set and see if they'll carry you to the end.
Indeed, and we're just having a look here. Looks like our oldest pit stop, should I say, 15 laps. Then Altman, so 3 laps time or so. Usually expecting him to come into the pits. It looks like we've got our first black flag of this evening in Stefan Heinrichs. There's still an hour to go. And of course, you get another one every 7 incidents afterwards, after racking up that initial 21 incident points. So I think that he may well be on board for another one at some point in this race. Now might be the point where some of those drivers who have been a little bit more lenient on enforcing track limits of themselves, starting to pick up those drive-through penalties, which, looking at most of the grid, would take you from the front of your class to very close to the back of it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's kind of this like exponential penalty that you'll get there, you know, because like you said, every 7 incidents after that first black flag, you're going to collect another one. And with this track and how easy it is to get those, you know, you could end up facing, you know, if you get that first black flag, you're going to get maybe another one, maybe a third one. And it could really start to punish you if you're not being careful.
Absolutely, as we see Heinrich there rolling through the pit lane to serve his drive-through penalty. Some of those cars behind him will be pretty happy with that, because of course he's a lap car and might well have been getting in their way, and now he's well and truly out of their way, as that's JT going through there just in front in P14, and I think that might be another car behind him, the 601. Who's that going to be? That's going to be James Vernon. And is that them competing for position now? It might have actually brought him into an interesting race. I'm not actually so sure, because they still look one lap separated from each other, I think. So, yep. As we were saying, looks like we're a couple of laps away from our second round of pit stops. 57 minutes to go. I think it's absolutely impossible for anybody to stretch it to the end. We've got 28 laps to go, including this one, and yeah, nobody's going to make 28 laps. You'll want to split it into a nice even number, probably looking at 2 14-lap stints, or you might want to go for an 18 and then something a little bit less. And of course, you've got that important decision to make of whether you want to get a new set of tyres, as Sven Altman, after 17 laps, is heading into the pit lane just to prove my point.
Yeah, most of our drivers now, they're hitting, you know, in between that 14 to 15 lap mark. So here in the next couple of laps, we're going to be seeing everybody come in. It'll be interesting to see if they're going to run that, you know, full 17, 18 laps where they can, and we'll see who's going to come in at 16. And, you know, I think that's going to make a big difference in that end of the race, because when you're not taking those new tires and you're just getting a splash, it's all about how fast and how little fuel you can get in to get to the end of the race. And we could see a good amount of positions picked up just through that pit stop.
Absolutely, and Altman there comes out P14 overall, and he has the race leaders right behind him, who are on much lower fuel and much hotter tyres as well, because I saw his car lift up and get a new set of tyres. But of course, Sven here isn't going to want to give up loads of time by just pulling out of the way and letting them through, because he's in his own battle, in his own class, and hoping that his kind of his pit stops here are going to line up and do the undercut, because of course everyone's going to have 2 more stops to go. Even Thomas Critchell, who's only done 8 laps, and Thorne, who's done 8 laps as well on their set of tyres. I don't think they're going to be able to stretch it to the end either. So indeed, I think that they might be trying the strategic game of when exactly do you pit.
Yeah,
And
100% there. Those spins in those early laps definitely throw off that strategy. So you got to wonder if they're going to cut that in half, take a quick stop now and then get the rest of that stop, maybe a fresh set later on. There's a lot of options open to them, but it'll be interesting to see if they're able to make up and make back any of that time that they lost.
indeed, and I've seen quite an interesting dynamic here, because of course Elliot here has been on his stint for 16 laps, and Imran for 14, and he's closer than I think I've seen him for the rest of this race. I wonder if he's trying to put a bit of pressure on Elliot here, get him maybe using a bit more fuel than he wants, a bit more of those tyres than he wants as he heads into the pit lane. And now for Imran, these next couple of laps are going to be crucial if he wants to do the overcut and come out of the pits in front of Elliot.
Yeah, I think if he's playing it smart here, maybe he was sitting behind for a little while. Maybe he'll pull out another 18-lap stint, try to put as much of a gap between him while he's in the pits. Give himself a nice bit of breathing room. I'll be willing to bet he's either going to come out very close or maybe just a bit ahead of Elliot on the end of these pit stops.
Indeed, I'm just looking here. I can see Elliot's car lifted up as we're looking down the pit straight here. You can see the headlights on your kind of the center of your screen. Looks like to me he's changed tyres on this stop. I was just wondering whether he was going to come out into traffic. He's having a Porsche come through, but I think he'll be pretty clear. But yeah, it looks like from P1 in this race, I think he's going to be... Yeah, he's got a 3-second gap, and he's going to hope that Porsche, the number 90, is going to pit in soon, and he will do with 16 laps on his tyres, so not too much of an issue for traffic for him. We've seen Mikey Rogers, Jeffrey Damon, and Timo Gartner come in. Carson Walter hasn't come in yet. He's got another lap on his stint, so that's going to be interesting in that battle between Damon and Walter, which is getting very intense at some point. Got Rogers out of the pits. Robin Wist on your screen has only done 15 laps. He's not in the pit lane yet, and indeed he is 5 seconds off the back of David. And of course, that those pit stops, they can make 5 seconds difference. If you go a bit too long in your box, you change tyres and somebody else doesn't, you put in a bit too much fuel, you can catch that up reasonably easily if you're able to play your pit strategy completely right. And there we have it. Jeffrey Damon out of the pits, 21 seconds behind Mikey Rogers. But he's going to want to build as much pace and heat in those tyres before Walter heads into the pit lane and changes the tyres and fuel for himself as JT Sawyer heads into the pits as Michael Rhodes takes back over the lead of that AM class. Very interesting.
It looks like Robin Wist is coming in as well on lap 16. So he decided not to go for the 18-lap stint that he had previously. So maybe he's doing what we talked about earlier, cutting that difference in half. That way he can get some fuel now, run those quicker laps, and then pick up just enough fuel to get himself to the end.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone's going to be safe on fuel at this stage because there's 51 minutes to go, and you can pretty much put about 35 minutes of fuel on board. So anybody who's pitting now is only going to have to make one more stop before the end of this race. So we're seeing Thomas Critchell actually for position past Andy Keane there. Makes his way up to P14 overall. And it's heading up to P14 and heading up to look a little bit like his first race of the season here, where he's fighting back through the lapped cars. Even though we're on the final round as Carson Walter heads into the pits. Going to be very interesting to see where he comes out in comparison to Jeffrey Damon, who of course he has been fighting for the lead of that class.
That'll definitely be very interesting. I think looking at Tom's laps now, he's on lap 10, so he could be in a position if he took tires on his last run to actually stretch out his laps as much as he can, maybe just make a stop for fuel and get himself to the end and almost kind of skip this middle, pit stop that these other drivers are having to make.
Very interesting strategic options we're seeing here, and I can see Walter's actually coming out 7 seconds in front of Jeffrey Damon. He's really extended that gap, but of course if he is on new tyres, he's going to lose some of that time in the kind of heat up around the track, but definitely extending his lead. And I'm hearing a car very much revving its engine in the pit lane there, wanting to get away from his pit stop. And Imran still out in front, 17 laps for David, 10 seconds behind. Brinker, who did an 18 lap stint, is into the pits. The number 90 of H. Lee is in as well, so those cars will sort themselves out into the right positions. And where is Imran right now on track? He's coming through the middle sector. And I would imagine he's in this lap, because if he crosses the start-finish line, he will have done an 18-lap stint so far. And if I know something about the Mustang, it's a very hungry car on fuel. And we'll kind of just sip it all up as soon as you've put it into the tank. And maybe David behind in the Chev is able to save a bit more fuel than him and save a bit of time, especially on that final pit stop. We come around Sunset Corner. It looks like he's heading to the pit lane, and indeed he is. Slows down for that timing line there, and into the pits he goes. As Heller makes it through on Brinker there. He, of course, was our overall race leader, and he is going to want to catch back up to the back of Imran, who is going to sit in the pit lane for the next 40 seconds or so, and then trundle down at a reduced speed and see what happens, and who can have the fastest pit stop from their cars.
You know, it's one of the more exciting things about these endurance races. It's less about speed, less about your car on the track, and it actually has quite a bit to do with that strategy. You know, how much time are you able to save in the pits? Who are you able to be close to? How's your draft buddy doing? You know, these things matter a lot more when you're getting into these 2+ hour races where, you know, that 3, 4, 5 seconds that you save in the pits could be the difference between a P1 and a P2.
Absolutely. Completely agreed. And when it's the final round of the championship, you're always thinking about those important championship points, and that's going to be very interesting to see. And a kind of unique factor of this series, 2-hour races, it is that more endurance format, and you get to experience that more strategic racing, especially when there's a bit of weather involved, if you sign yourselves up to season 1 of the Darkwing Racing Endurance Championship, which you can do from the first link in the description. Join the Discord, have a little read, and sign yourselves up for the season that starts on the 1st of February. So, having a little look here, it looks like Heller has really lost out here compared to Imran. He's 30 seconds back. I'm not sure if he went for a spin or anything. I'm just going to have a little check now, but that's a massive amount of time to lose in the pit lane.
It looks like he did on my race control. I'm seeing it looks like Elliott did have a little bit of an incident.
Indeed, a little bit like last time out when we were in Le Mans. It looked like he had a safe guard on that race. Well, he had a reasonably safe guard on this race. Let's have a little look at what happened to him a few laps ago, if we can't. He was coming around Sunset Corner, and he goes for a slide. And oh, that's very high speed. And that has actually done, well, I thought it had done a lot of damage, but in fact, his rear bumper bumped back on. And I think he was very lucky with the fact he was coming up to his pit stop anyway, that was able to go into the pit lane and refresh that car with his one fast repair, because when we were watching him there, it didn't look like he had any damage at all. We can have another check back. Yeah, that car is fully repaired. That was actually, if you're going to have a crash, I feel like that's maybe one of the best places for it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Anywhere past that sunset corner, and you're either looking at a long tow or a long drive to get back around to those pits. So if you manage to spin it and you can spin on your in lap right next to the pits, as far as unlucky goes, that may be about as lucky as you can get.
Absolutely. And let's have a little look at what's going on. Who's won from those pit stops? Well, Robin Wist is 0.8 of a second back on David Schilling. That's been a very big gain in the pit lane for him as well. Has there been more incidents that I've been watching here? David looked like actually he might have had a crash himself. Let's go to him live quickly and see. That car doesn't look like it has a great amount of damage, but he does have Robin right behind him. Let's once again go and have a look at what happened to him coming through these curves. He had a horrible time through here earlier. He's done the exact same thing where he's gone too much on that curb with his tyre and he's gone for a slide. And yeah, he's lost all of that time back to Robin Wist. And two of the exact same mistake in this race. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's that corner can be very hard to judge sometimes, because as you see, the normal line is actually to kind of go out past that curve.
Oh, and he's almost gone for it again. Sorry, Zach. I saw his car searching around the grip as he was going over that curb. He very almost had the exact same accident straight away after we'd seen it. He really does like going over that curb, and maybe that Corvette is just run so low to the ground that it doesn't like it.
Yeah, he's definitely playing the both ends of that risk versus reward there. I'm very surprised to see him go for it again on the very next lap.
Wow, I somehow can't believe that the guys at their best, they don't get scared by a little slide through a corner. They want to go as fast as they possibly can. And yeah, it looks like he's really trying to balance that risk versus reward once he's once he's heading out there. But it really has spiced up the battle for P1 in the pro class here, because Robin Wist 0.6 of a second behind now. He's going to have that slipstream. They've got a lap car, the 601 of James Vernon in front of them. And it's really brought them together, especially when they're fighting so hard on those championship points. I will have a little check for you in just a moment to see what the points difference exactly is between them. On the pro class, Robin Wist is currently in front of David Schilling in terms of points, but the difference is only 8 points, as I think James Vernon was off the road there. He's the lap car getting out of the way, and actually I've seen Elliot Heller. I think he's come into the pit lane and he's out of this race.
Oh, it does. It looks like he might have had another crash just after David Schilling.
Let's have another look here. He comes round. He's going very slowly. No, I think he might have just pulled over to the side of the road there. That is very interesting indeed. Might have had some sort of equipment failure or something else that he had to do at this point of time. But he is actually the first retirement for this race, so everything's going pretty well so far. So as not to excuse me. Okay.
Looking at our friendly viewers in chat, it looks like Elliot actually had to leave for some real life reasons. So that's why he pulled over and pulled himself out of that race. So we wish him luck and we hope everything's going well.
Indeed. So yeah, he's had to come out of this race, but it's going to leave Imran with a pretty healthy lead out front at this point. Then 15 seconds, and without Elliot to come and catch up and bother him. But it's not so chill for Robin Wist and David Schilling here. They are separated by 0.2 of a second. David defending on the inside. He knows that if you go on the outside here, you have a very low chance of getting past. And Robin just sticks behind him here to try another day. Before we were looking at Elliot being out there, Robin, 3 points is the difference between himself and David at the top of that pro class. 3 points in Robin's favour there, 113 to 110, counting in those drop rounds. Now, of course, you're going to gain more than 3 points between this first and second place in the Pro class. Just having a little spy, it's going to be 32 to 25 points, the difference in terms of first and second finishing position. So, in this battle, it's very much going to be whoever's in front come the end of this race is going to be crowned the Pro Class champion. And I'm sure that is going to be playing on Robin's mind as he considers when and where he should make this move on David. He thought he was 10 seconds down the road just 20 minutes ago, but now they are so close together in this final 40 minutes, going oh so wide and oh so close to the wall as we head onto the pit straight, and you can almost not distinguish anything between those two white and red branded cars.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting. You know, we got Robin Wist. He's on lap 6 of those tires. David Schilling's on lap 4. So it does look like David's got the advantage when it comes to the end of this stint as far as tires go. So I think when it's in Robin's case, you kind of want to try to get ahead and build as much of a gap as you can, since you're going to be pitting a little bit earlier.
Indeed. And of course, if you've stopped 2 laps earlier, you're probably going to have to take 2 laps less of fuel in that final pit stop. Now that might not sound like a massive amount of time, but when your gap is half a second, it can really make all the difference. You can stretch it so that the other person is half a second in front, or you could lose another half a second in that just extra amount of fuel you've got to bring on and end up a second or 2 behind. So it'd be very interesting to watch when we head into the pit stop phases. Of course, we also don't know how much fuel each of these drivers took on in their pit stop. They might have underfueled a little bit to go a bit faster in this kind of middle bit of the end of the race, the bit between an hour and half an hour to go. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it shakes out at the pit stops, and if they are close together, when it's for the win of the Pro class in this series, you're going to have to go all out, very, very hard to the end. But also not go so hard, you either end up in the wall or take both of you out at the same time. Very difficult balance to strike.
Yeah, we're hitting a point in this last race where, throughout all the rounds, this is now coming down to a game of tenths to see which driver is going to take our Pro Championship.
Absolutely. And also have a look at how our other championships are shaping out. So it's Timo Gartner who's currently leading the GT3 Pro-Am Championship. And oh, there's a spinner there. I think it might be Tom Critchell once again in turn 1, and it is Tom Critchell. He's once again facing the wrong way in turn 1. I can't tell you much about how to become a faster driver as Tom, but I certainly don't think he will be choosing the Porsche for the 12-hour Sebring coming up later in the year, because he's not had a good day in that car through turn 1.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, and I'm thinking maybe these colder temperatures really threw him off from what he was expecting to be around this track. Right now we're looking at it, the track has come down another, not a full degree, but we're down to 21.1, so it's definitely getting cooler the longer this race continues.
Yeah, indeed. And before we saw Tom off in the background there, I was just recounting how our Pro-Am Championship is looking with drop rounds. Of course, it's not the final results, because if this is your worst result, it will become your drop round. But just looking at how everyone's rolling, if you're at the top of your field and at the top in this race, that's unlikely to be your drop round. Currently, it's Timo Gartner who leads the Pro-Am Championship by 19 points. And then Jeffrey Damon is the second place driver. Samuel Garrett is not with us this evening. No, he's not. So he's going to lose third place to João Costa, I believe, because Felix Mexner isn't here either. So I think for João, that's going to be a guaranteed P3. For João to become class champion, he would require both Jeffrey Damon and Timo Gartner to either be disqualified out of this race, or DNF, and them already having a DNF in the season, or a no-show during the season, and he would have to score a perfect run of points to do that, so very difficult indeed. A perfect run of points being winning the Pro-Am class, getting a 0x, a point for 0x, and getting the fastest lap of his class. And I think that would be very difficult, seeing as he's been in a few incidents today, which has resulted in him getting more than 0x. So that championship win is out of the window for him. And I just want to have a check. The difference, 19 points between Jeffrey Damon and Timo Gartner. I'll do a bit of maths on the fly. And Jeffrey Damon, yeah, they're not currently in a position where Damon can win the championship, and also I believe he would need Timo Gartner to be behind Altman and potentially behind Costa, and him to win that AM class. I can't do the maths quickly enough on the fly to work out the exact numbers, but he would need Gartner to fall quite a way back, and him to win that class, which he's currently 5 seconds behind of. And of course, the AM class championship is completely wrapped up with Michael Rhodes winning 5 out of 6 races so far, and on track to win this race as well. His gap 48 points in front, but the fight in that class is really P2, P3 and P4. Stefan Heinrich is on 83, JT Sawyer is on 83, and JT Sawyer is currently a lap in front of Heinrich. So he is looking like he's going to get P2 in that championship, with James Vernon, who is also behind JT on 72 points. So would very much need a miracle to claim either P2 or P3 in this championship. Andy Keane is in P5 in that championship with 63 points. Yes, 63 points, 68 behind Michael Rhodes, and again would need quite the turn of luck, but he might pass James Vernon. No, they're only one place separated in their class, so not at this moment in time.
Looks like we've got ourselves a little battle happening between Harrison and Mikey, both in McLaren, so we'll see who can get the better angle out of this one.
Absolutely. It's going to be Harrison who's in front, Mikey Rogers behind. As they come down towards the hairpin, it's going to be Mikey Rogers still behind, but indeed they are very close together. 2 laps separated on tyres and fuel, as Zach said. Both in the McLaren, both in very differently coloured cars. Who is going to come out on top in this battle as Mikey looks to the inside? I think that might have been a little fake to try and scare Harrison there, because he was quite a bit way back to make a dive bomb. But he's alongside, it looks like, once again on the outside. Is he going to switch to the inside? No, Harrison covers him off at this particular moment. And yes, this is turning into quite the spicy battle. And let's see what happens as they head on to that back straight. Mikey is all over the back of him, definitely very visible that he's there. And is this going to be a bit of a move through Sunset Corner? They got James Stefan Heinrich in front of them as a lap car. He will be wanting to get out of the way as quickly as possible, I think, and not get involved in what is going to be quite the tussle here as we head down towards Sunset Corner. Is Mikey going to make another one of those fake moves up the inside? No, I think Harrison's a bit too much to the inside. But Mikey, round the outside, is going to be able to carry that bit more speed as we head down towards turn 1. Neither of them getting particularly close to the wall, but still staying particularly close to each other. This lap car could make all the difference here. He pulls to the outside and lets both of them through at the same time. Very well indeed from him. Half a second separating them, and I think they're going to have to get through that tricky, complicated section again before they can battle again.
Yeah, this is definitely proving interesting. Both of them being in the same car makes this more of a battle of skill than it is a battle of vehicle, right?
Absolutely. And yeah, there will be no bop difference between them as we head The sun's gone down, the lights are on, and there's 30 minutes left of this inaugural season of the Darkwing Racing Endurance Championship, and the battles are far from over at this point in time. There is many a reasons to stay tuned. Robin Wist a second off the back of David Schilling now, but he's gone for a few spins at the same corner, and they are fighting for the win of the Pro Championship. And then we've got here Mikey, Rogers and Harrison fighting not over points but over pride. Michael Rhodes is head into the pit lane for what is presumably his final stop of the race, and we might see a few more cars heading in as we get towards the end of this race, and the pit stops may well decide this championship. And as we head onto that back straight once more, Mikey Rogers looking about the same gap he was back. He needs to get a better exit here in order to end up with Harrison here. And Robin Wist has gained about half a second on David Schilling through this lap. Wonder if there was another little slide, but nowhere near as impactful as previously, both in literal and metaphorical sense of the word. But these two are so close together as we head round Sunset Corner, the final corner of this lap, and we are looking at 15 laps to go. As it stands, Mikey Rogers looking up the inside, but there's no room for him at this moment. What's he going to do as we come down through 2 into 3? I think he's just a bit too far back to do anything.
Yeah, it does look like Harrison had a little bit of a difficulty going out of turn 1 into those corners, so he was able to close that gap back up. We'll see if he's able to split it back out, or if Mikey's going to be able to stay up on his bumper and make him a little bit more nervous.
Absolutely. Apologies there. I think I lost connection to the session for about 2 seconds or so, but we are back now, and still with this battle. Luckily, they didn't overtake in that exact moment. Otherwise, we would have missed it. But yeah, they're very close indeed as we come through there. An awesome noise from both of those cars. 4th and 5th overall in this race, and they may not stay that way as they head down once again into this kind of section of the track where you need to set up all this way through. From this corner onwards, you're kind of setting up for a move down that back straight. You want to be as close as possible to that back bumper, but you need to leave enough space through that corner so you can actually use any overspeed advantage you have. A very tricky balance at this track, made even trickier if you're in the same car as the person in front of you. You can't use your car as an advantage, but Mikey Rogers looks mighty close as we head down that straight. 0.2 of a second separate them. What is going to happen? We're coming down to 1.5 as we head through Sunset. He's going to stick behind, but is he going to let Harrison make a bit of a mistake? As we come through, he takes a wider line into Sunset Corner. Is he going to be able to use that speed into turn 1? No, he's actually dropped back to about 0.4 of a second here, and he was oh so close heading down into that Sunset Corner, but it doesn't look like he was able to use that particular advantage as we continue on yet another lap of these two being so close together.
A lot of these corners on this track too are, pretty connected. So it's, if you mess up the entrance or you mess up the style of one corner, it could end up kind of screwing you over through the next, maybe 1, maybe 2 or 3 corners. As your line kind of gets screwed up, you got to gather the car back together. By the time you hit the end of that corner chain, that other car could be well on your bumper again.
Absolutely. And what is going to make this battle even more interesting is they've got 2 lapped cars who they're both coming up on at the same time. We have Michael Rhodes is one of those cars in there, and I think James Vernon as well. And they might make a little bit of a difference here. You can see that Harrison's getting a little bit held up by this 16th place car here. And Mikey Rogers kind of sails up the inside. It looks like a little bit more easily and was able to gain a bit of time. But it is still 0.6 of a second that separates them. And now the advantage is back to Harrison because he's going to have that Porsche of Michael Rhodes in front of him and able to kind of pull him along down this straight where before he was quite vulnerable because it was only Mikey Rogers who was getting a slipstream. And look, you can see him using the back of that Porsche in order to negate Mikey's advantage of being behind. And I think he might actually have been able to extend his gap there because he's closer to the back of Michael Rhodes than Michael Rhodes is to the back of him. And of course, they're going to start thinking very shortly about coming into the pit lane as 11, 13, 12 laps. Now is the time where you start thinking, is this my time where I can come in and do a bit of an undercut, or do I stay out longer than my rival? Do I put a bit more fuel in them as Mikey goes a little bit wide, but doesn't result in any sort of difficulty for him? You have to think, what exactly is my strategy here? Am I going to stretch to my full fuel tank and I'm going to come in a bit earlier? Is this the time for a fresh set of tyres, or do I just stay on my set and maybe save a little bit of time in that pit stop, and certainly save a bit of time heating up a cold, fresh set of slicks on this very cold track surface?
It's definitely going to be very interesting. If we take fuel strategy out of the equation, Harrison's got a 2-lap advantage when it comes to fuel and tires. So we'll see if that's going to make a difference in the pit lane, or if they were, kind of able to knock that difference down. We'll find out here in probably the next 2 to 3 laps, I would imagine.
Absolutely. And of course, if you are going to take a new set of tires, you have to do it early enough that you could actually use the advantage of those tires as well. Because if we're heading into 23 minutes to go, we've seen 17, 18 lap stints. Everybody's on about 13, 14 laps now. So add on another 6 minutes or so. 15 minutes isn't enough time to use any advantage you would get of a fresh set of tires over your rivals who stayed on their old set, because you've got to spend the time a couple of laps heating them up, and then your rivals' tires have to fall off. I think that it is very much, the window is closing right now, in my opinion, at the very least, to take a new set of tires if you want them in your pit stop.
I think you're absolutely right, especially on this track. From experience, I've noticed it can take about 2 laps, maybe a little longer, to get those tires really fully set in. And then you take temperature into account, right? Our track temps are extremely low, so maybe that's going to turn into 2.5, maybe even 3 laps to get those tires, fully worn in, get that new tire scrubbed off and kind of get it ready to go. So by the time you actually get to use those tires, we could be only looking at maybe, 9, 10 laps to go, which isn't a whole lot of time in the grand scheme of things to get a lot of work done.
Absolutely. And we've got 12 laps to go as it stands right now. That works out pretty well with the 22 minutes remaining in this race. 2-minute-ish lap time, depending on what class you're in. And looks like we've got another driver, H-Lee, who's got a black flag. Not going to make too much of a difference for him, because he's not scoring any points. But that is our second car we have seen this evening with a black flag. And actually we're seeing Mikey Rogers maybe be the closest he has for a good couple of laps, the back of that McLaren number 93. But I think actually that advantage might get negated by the fact that I think that's João Costa in the Acura in front is providing a slipstream, and Harrison wants it for as long as possible. Mikey Rogers letting the number 11 of Costa know that he's also coming through. Please don't hold me up. We're in quite the intense battle here.
Neither one of them going into the pit lane. Going to give Mikey a bit of an advantage.
Absolutely, he is really on the back bumper here. He's going to have to try something a bit audacious, though, if he's going to want to make his way through. He's looking up the inside, and it's Mikey Rogers who goes through, but they've made contact, but they've managed to keep both on the road. A little bit of a wiggle. They're side by side, coming down into turn 2, into turn 3. It's Rogers on the inside. On the outside is Harrison. Is he going to force him out? He's over the top of the curb, but once again, it's Mikey Rogers who has the inside here. They're side by side, but actually, it's Harrison who's going to take the advantage. But is that going to change as we head down towards the hairpin? Harrison is going on the outside, now the inside. Rogers the inside, now the outside, now the inside once again. A little bit of a weave, but for now he has to stay right behind his McLaren compatriot driver, but they are less than 0.2 of a second between them, and this is a battle that is going to keep going throughout this lap. Is Mikey going to look up the inside? No, but they are getting awfully feisty together, and it was that little bit of going wide at Sunset Corner that really gave Mikey a chance there, and for a moment I think he and I both thought he was going to sail past into turn 1.
I think so, man. That was very close, but you know, Harrison was very good about holding that middle line and kind of forcing Mikey to take that inside line in a turn 1, which can be not so favorable on the exit if you're not allowed to run the full length of that track.
Absolutely, and it's boiled down a little bit here as Rogers is now 0.6 of a second back. So I don't think they're going to get quite as close at this point. They don't have a lapped car in front of them either to kind of go for the slipstream. But after that getting so feisty, if I was either one of these drivers, I'd be thinking, now's the time to pit. And Mikey Rogers thinking the same as me, it's time to try and undercut and see if I can't get past him in this pit stop sequence.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of work Harrison's able to get done now that he's free of that battle. He's got a little bit of clean air, so we'll see if he can make up any time, open up that gap by the time he's got to come into the pits as well.
Absolutely. We've got Ashley here, wildcast driver number 90, who indeed had the black flag we mentioned a few minutes ago. He's right behind Michael Rhodes right now. Now, Mike Rhodes got last time I checked at the very least, a good lead over JT Sawyer. He won't want to battle this car particularly hard in case he gets involved in a spin or just battles so hard that he ends up losing so much time to JT Sawyer. Even though he's won the championship, he's still wanting to go very much for that 6 for 6 victories in the AM class, and I think that will mean quite a lot to him to just win every race this season, and a lot of confidence going into the next season of the championship. So Rogers is out of the pit lane now, and let's just have a little look at the gap between them, if I can find the right button on my little controller here. There we go. He is looking like he is 40 seconds or so behind Harrison, and as I mentioned, Mike Rhodes actually pulls over and lets Ashley through. They're not fighting for points, they're not fighting for positions, and I think that was a little wiggle of thank you rather than frustration, and Mike Rhodes doesn't want to get caught up in any battle he doesn't have to, so lets him through there. But indeed, as I was saying, Mikey Rogers 40 seconds or so behind Harrison. Going to be very interesting once Harrison is into the pit lane. JT Sawyer comes into the pits, and Mike Rhodes retakes the lead of that class from him. 6 cars right now left on the lead lap as Carson Walter heads into the pit lane as well. And that will be all of the Pro-Am class, as far as I can see, who will have made their final pit stops with 16 minutes left of this season. And we will see how that shakes out the championship results as we come towards the end of this race. And Rogers back up to P5, and the next car in front of him will be coming to the pit lane within the next couple of laps. Another interesting pit stop battle actually to watch while we're at it as well. Robin Wist and David Stilling. David has been into the pit lane. Robin has not. And he, of course, by virtue of coming into the pits a couple laps later, will probably be able to take a little bit less fuel and potentially have a faster pit stop. Even if it's by a couple tenths of a second, it is going to make all the difference when you're fighting over the win of your class.
Yep, and looks like he's coming into the pits now, so we'll watch his timer here and see if he's able to shave down any of those seconds in the box.
Well, let's see. I'm very interested to see. I can't imagine he will want to have his car lift up and take on a new set of tyres, and indeed, it's not. So, let's watch his pit stop here and see what happens. We expect Harrison to also come into the pit lane on this lap. Where is he right now? No, he's not. He's going to carry on for another lap. And let's go back to Robin Wist, who we just saw managed to come out of the pit lane there, and he is behind David Schilling. You can see him flashing. That's the car in front. Actually, there's quite the gap between them. It's going to be a total of 4 seconds gained over that pit stop. Last time I looked at their difference, I think it was less than a second or so between them. So it's David who's really won on that pit stop battle, but it can all change as lap traffic is getting in the way.
Yeah, it looks like David was able to get out of his pits about 2.6 seconds approximately faster than Robin Wist. So managed to save himself a little bit of time on the pit stop, which is interesting, seeing as Robin Wist came in after. You would expect that maybe he has to take a little bit less fuel, but you know, we are talking Mercedes versus Corvette. That Mercedes may just be a little bit more hungry.
Absolutely. Quite importantly for Robin, he did manage to get out in front of Harrison as well. That wouldn't have done him very well. Harrison yet to pit has a 37-second advantage now over Mikey Rogers. I think this might be the closest battle come the end of this race. João Costa, his woes unfortunately continue in the Pro-Am class as he's picked up a drive-through penalty, most likely for incident limit with 13 minutes to go. There isn't too much time left for him to recover from that. Of course, we haven't really considered it for these Pro-class drivers, but a drive-through penalty now would absolutely ruin their chances of winning their class.
Yeah, I think at this point, with as little time as we have left, you really got to be on top of those X's. If you're anywhere near that drive-through, you got to start prioritizing, you know, maybe a little bit of speed over keeping the car on the track. You end up getting that drive-through, it could cost you everything that they've worked so hard for.
Absolutely, and we've seen now Harrison is into the pit lane. We're going to stay on board with him here to see where he comes out into comparison with Mikey Rogers. He has had a 2-lap fuel advantage over him, though we once again would expect him to have a bit of an advantage coming out of the pit lane. Unlike our 2 pro drivers, both Mikey and Harrison are in the McLaren, so they should have approximately the same fuel usage. But where's Mikey Rogers now? He's coming down the pit straight. I think that actually Harrison has managed to make quite the advantage out of the pits here, as Mikey Rogers ends up about 5 seconds behind him, and maybe that isn't the battle to watch for the end of the race, because Harrison's gained such an advantage in the pit lane.
Yeah, it looks like his pit time compared to Mikey was just about 3 seconds faster on the dot, with just taking that little bit less fuel. So he definitely got the advantage there, and it looks like when he had that little bit of free air, he was able to maybe even build that gap a little larger to 2 seconds, take that 3-second advantage, and get himself a nice little gap towards the end of this race.
Absolutely. That's been a very interesting strategic battle during this race. It seems like the overcut has really been the one that's worked so far here at Sebring, and it looks like we've just got one driver who still has to make a pit stop left in this race, and that's going to be our overall leader, Imran, in the 115. Again, haven't seen too much of him this race because he's just been out in the front ever since Elliott had to leave. And Stefan Heinrichs coming through the pit lane to serve his drive-through penalty. This could make a crucial difference. We've got just under 11 minutes to go in this championship. Is it all decided? Is everyone going to stay as they are and without incident? I wouldn't bet on it in this championship. We've seen it all change over the course of this race, let alone the championship, as Robin Wist heads a bit wide but makes a safe self past the lap car of Thorn number 51.
Yeah, when it comes to those incident points too, you know, we talked about being safe. if you're approaching that penalty limit, but we've kind of got the other side of that coin as well, where if you've got some points to spare, maybe this is the time to run a little wide, get a little more speed, use some of those incident points that you've got available to you to try to close some of that gap up.
Absolutely. Mikey Rogers makes his way past the lap car of JT Sawyer and brings his gap down to just under 5 seconds now, rather than just over 5 seconds. So he is gaining a little bit of time forward, but he's only got about 6 laps left to go. And not only have you got to gain the time, you've got to make the overtake as well.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking in terms of comfort, you want to have, I'm guessing, at least about, maybe 3 or 4 laps where you're on the bumper, where you can, get him a little nervous, try to force a mistake. You get closer to the end of that race, and even if you're close, it might not be enough to get that pass done.
Absolutely. I think you're right there. And indeed, even if you're the chaser, you have that little bit more adrenaline. 5 seconds gap, it feels like it's going to be very difficult to overcome with 9 minutes and 5 laps to go. That means you're going to have to gain about 2 seconds a lap here. And oh, there's a spinner there. It's going to be Mikey Rogers, and he gets a black flag to go with it. That is the end of any chance of him going against Harrison. Not only has he had to deal with this spin, he's got to drive through the pits. And we were saying everyone might be a bit close, and it was just a slide and straight into the barriers for him.
Yep, and that can be the other side of those nerves that you were talking about there. You see that 5-second gap, you see it start to come down a little bit. You might be a little eager to put on a little bit earlier throttle, try to get a better exit speed, and sometimes that can lead to little mistakes like that can cost you the race.
Absolutely. I did want to have a little look on board with Mikey there. It looked like he was just carrying a bit too much speed through there. He caught the inside, and yeah, I think he just got a little bit too much, a little too happy on the throttle trying to chase down Harrison there, and yeah, he's just gone straight forward into the barrier. A very unfortunate way for this race to come to an end for him.
And I can speak from experience. In the McLaren on that corner, there's a little bit of a bump right at the exit of that curb, or at the exit of that corner, let's say. And then if you hit that while you're accelerating, it can kind of throw the rear of the car a little bit out of balance. So you got to be really careful with that.
Yeah, and as we've seen throughout this race, it's such a bumpy and difficult track in so many places. And it's kind of decided the fate of so many different drivers here that yeah, it really has. It has shook it up. You can be absolutely rapid in qualifying, get that 1 lap in, but it is the nature of this track that really has shaped the face of this race. Mikey Rogers comes out 2 seconds behind Jeffrey Damon from his penalty. Now, I think he'll be faster than Jeffrey Damon, but Damon is still in range of Carsten Walter there, and anything can happen 6 minutes to go. Jeffrey's going to want the highest finishing position he can. Any post-race penalties for his rivals might move him up a place or 2 in the championship. And of course, all that important prize money for him to claim. And it could be the difference between P2, P3. Could be the difference between P1 and P2 as well. So I think he's not going to want to get Mikey Rogers involved. And actually, those 2 lights on the front of Mikey's car, I think they should be pretty well aligned. But they are very much not at the same point on his car as they should be. Coming down now, 6 minutes to go. Looking like it's going to be 4 laps. Looking at our race leader here, where is he on track? He's just heading through the back section of the lap before you get onto the back straight. 6 minutes to go. Indeed, that's going to shake out when he crosses the line with 3 before the checkered flag. And HV, one of our wildcard drivers here in the 90, he is looking to get past. Actually, oh, and there's a spinner in front of him, and is he going to get caught by him? No, he hits the brakes. And I think that was Thorne, actually, who maybe felt a bit under pressure with the blue flag. And As we said, this race isn't over. Any sort of incident can happen, but I think that was Thorn there. He went for a little bit of a spin coming out of there in that Audi. Not the easiest car to drive, and especially when you're going sideways. Yeah, it looks like a world-class driver in the 90 there. Pretty much had to stamp the brakes the entire way through that corner. Michael Rhodes comes through, and so as not to hit him because you didn't know which way he was going.
I mean, that could be the hard part with this track, especially into some of those corners. We were talking about how tight it was. If a driver starts to spin, you're kind of just waiting and watching to see, you know, where the track takes that car. Is it going to go left, right? And, you know, you're just hoping that you make that right decision. You're able to get around him.
Absolutely. As well as, Thorn's gone for another spin there. This has not been the end of the race for a championship that he's run. He's not wanted to finish the championship like this. He's heading towards the pit lane. I don't think he wants to go in the pit lane, or maybe he does. He's driving through it anyway. But that is a disappointing end for the race for him. And I think he might park it up, and with 4 minutes to go, he might not head back out again. As, well, our last driver running on track is going to be Stefan Heinrichs here. 3 laps down on our race leader. So he's still going, and I have to give compliments to anybody who's raced in this championship. Had a bit of a bad race and continued on to see it out to the end. Also scores those all-important points. But, of course, it's very demoralising, especially if you've been into the barrier in the pits a few times during this race. You won't want to be too happy about being out on the track. And looking at our drivers here, I think that Lee here, he's come up to a lapped car of Andy Keane. And looking at our time to go, we're just about to pass 3 minutes left in this championship. We've got 16 seconds for our leader. Going to have to make quite a big mistake now to give it up as we look there. There he goes on that Greg's liveried car and makes it through into Sunset Corner. And David Chilling also gets past the lap car of, I think that might be Sven Altman there in P9. He's not going to be able to catch up with Imran at this point in time. And Robin Wist, 6.5 seconds back, I don't think is going to be able to catch up with him either, even though you can see him going through the back of shot there. He can see him, but he just doesn't have the pace to catch him unless he has another slide through the particular corner he was having issues with earlier. Looks to me like either by damage or by choice, Mikey Rogers is going to be staying behind Jeffrey Damon at the end of this race. Let's have a look where our race leader is right now in Imran. And I think, just looking at where he is on the track, yes, and we've just had it confirmed by the overlay there, he is very shortly going to be coming round to mark the final lap of Season 0 of the Dark Wing Racing Endurance Championship. Hasn't been a lights to flag victory for him, but he started on pole and well, he's in the lead now. So what is going to happen to him as he comes on to the final lap of the first season 0 of the Dark Wing Racing Endurance Championship? We're going to ride on board with him and experience this lap as we come through turn 1. Get as close to the wall as you want. Go out wide here. Try not to catch any of the dirt and get yourself a 1x. Come around here. Hug that inside. Hug that inside. And then you're going for a bit of a late apex here as you come round. Once again, get as wide as you can without touching the dirt. Don't get yourself a 1x. Heading down to this hairpin. Of course, this has been an interesting spot for overtaking this entire race. If you're on the inside, you've pretty much won the corner. You're braking down and taking that apex nice and sweet. You hear a little bit of a rumble coming from your wheels. That's nose how you're on the right part of the curb. Don't take too much curb as you come through here, because it will very much upset your car. You just want to give the apex a little kiss on the inside. We've seen a couple of spills and thrills as we head through this particular chicane and set of corners here. I'm sure Imran, he gets a bit of curb. He doesn't get any curb there, but he certainly does make it very nicely through there. You want to just touch the curb on the inside there, grab as much curb as you can on the outside, so that you start building that little bit of pace as you head left. You head left again, and then you're into this very tricky section on the brakes. You're going right once again. Bit of curb here. You don't want to ride too much over the curb here, but you want to get as far left as you possibly can. Hiss the apex on the right. Use all of this curb, but don't go on the grass, and make sure you are back on the black stuff before you head this long way down the airfield, down to Sunset Corner. You're going to be looking, you're going to be thinking all about your braking through here. You've got to trail all the way through. You're still braking, still braking, still braking. Hiss the inside on the throttle as Imran in his first DWREC race comes across the line to shake the checkered flag and win overall. It's going to be Timo Gartner who crosses the line after him, but he's not going to be P2. He's going to finish P8 and P4 in his class. He's then going to be followed by the winner of the Pro Class, and pending any post-race investigations, our Pro Class champion. It's going to be Sven Altman, who finishes behind, first is going to be Robin Wiss, who finishes P3 overall, and is going to miss out on that Pro Class Championship win. Thorne crosses the line next, a disappointing P16 for him, but he did come back out. Andy Keane, he's going to finish P14 overall, middle of his class, as he comes across the line in that Craig's livery card, to be followed by the AM class champion of Michael Rhodes, finishing in P11 overall. P12 overall, it's going to be Zhao Costa right behind Michael Rhodes, a disappointing race for him. Then coming around Sunset Corner, it's going to be Harrison to finish P4 overall. He thought he was under threat from Rogers before he took a spin into the wall. Next up, coming across the line, it's going to be Stefan Heinrichs in the 293. He makes it to the end of this race. Or does he? As he grabs a bit of damage on the outside, but he's going to finish, unfortunately, last of all of the finishers in this particular race. Then it's going to be JT Sawyer. He's going to come home P2 in the AM class, P13 overall. Walter comes closely behind to take the win of the Pro-Am class here at Sebring, and that's going to be just in front of Jeffrey Damon in that Mercedes. Then it's going to be a disappointing race for Mikey Rogers with that spin right at the end and to pick up a drive-through penalty. He's then followed by James Vernon in the AM class, and that is going to be all of our drivers finishing up for the last round of the Dark Wing Racing Endurance Championship. And just have a look at that. They're all lining up on the start-finish straight. They're having a bit of a celebration. They're having a great time. Zach, how do you feel about this race? And more importantly, about this season?
I think this was a great track to end the race on. We had a lot of really exciting fights going throughout the whole thing. The race did not end the way I expected to for some drivers, but we get to see Michael Rhodes go 6 for 6 in our opening series. I think this whole season was absolutely excellent. We saw some great battles. We saw some great drivers. We got some unexpected wins and unexpected faces. So I'm looking forward to season 1 and seeing how that's going to look for us.
Absolutely, and a brief reminder before we head to the podium or to the interviews of our drivers, we're just going to pop it up here that if you do want to get yourselves involved with the next season, the season 1, but it's the second season of the Dark Wing Racing Endurance Championship, join us on February 1st right here to take us around Spa, and maybe you'll be driving there yourselves. Sign up close on the 22nd of January. Please do have a look at the top link in the description. And yeah, look at all of these cars who have had a great time today. They've had a great season, and it's been great driving from all of our drivers throughout this entire season. And yeah, that just takes us for our final podium of Season 0. It's going to be David Schilling who once again takes the victory in the Pro Class on the podium, and victory in that Pro Class throughout the entire season. Robin Wist takes up P2 right behind him. That's going to be Mikey Rogers who takes up the last place on the podium. Heading back to our Pro-Am class, it's going to be Carson Walter, who takes up P1, Jeffrey Damon right behind, and Timo Gottner, a real star of the start of this season, who's going to be third place on the podium today. And then finally, he makes it 6 for 6. It's Michael Rhodes who takes the win in that AM class. JT Sawyer comes up behind him, and then Andy Keane, who turns up in P3. Let's have a little look at our full finishers then. It's going to be David Chilling who takes P1 and the fastest lap for a full 33 points in Pro. Wist, Rogers and Critchell, who didn't make it to the end of the race, 19 laps down. Having a little look at our Pro-Am class, it's Carson Walter who takes the victory and also takes the fastest lap. Jeffrey Damon behind, Timo Gottner, Sven Altman and João Costa. And then finally, our AM class, as we said, 6 for 6, Michael Rhodes, and he takes the fastest lap at the end. JT, Andy, James, and Stefan all up behind. And not anybody this week taking those fastest not taking 0x points. Everybody got at least 1 instant point over that race, and some of them quite a few more. Oh, it has been quite the season so far. Let's hide down those standings and have a little breather of what's going on there. We will see. I don't see anybody right now who actually wants to come and talk to us about that race. Maybe they're all having such a great time without us reminiscing on what a season they've had. In fact, I see one person who wants to join us. He doesn't join the Winners Lounge. It's going to be Mikey Rogers.
Hello. How's it going?
Do you think you had a smooth operation today, Mikey?
Oh no! First time back in the GT3 in a couple of months after being in the LMP2, and I'm rusty. But during the race, picked up a bit of pace. But yeah, Harrison did a fabulous job. He was quick, and yeah, just that spin coming out of tower, that was a bit unfortunate. And then I was having to fuel save at the end, and then I realised I'm actually going to run out of fuel, so I had to just totally back off. But no, it's fun. First race of the season for the finale. But yeah, it was good fun.
You've had quite a few battles. You've had quite a good finale, but you've watched a lot of the season.
I have, yes, yeah, with my work schedule and stuff. So watched it at work. So
you've had a chance to have a look along and see what's been happening out there. How do you feel as our glorious leader from the first season?
I have to say it's been an absolute success. It's really great to see, just behind the scenes chatter in the in the chat, the Discord chat with all the participants, the fierce battles, the rivalries, the great success in all of each classes. I want to give a congratulations to David, Karsten, and Michael Rhodes for winning their respective classes. Very well deserved. And fabulous job to you guys broadcasting it. You did an awesome job covering it, and well done to Fawn for starting this up from the beginning and creating what it is today. And massive shout out to Alex, our main steward, and all the steward and team as well for keeping the protests and the reviews and all that stuff, working hard behind the scenes. So no, very, very well done to everyone, and really looking forward to seeing it go ahead for season 1. So if any of you guys are watching and want to do it, head over to the DWREC Discord and sign up and get ready to go live in February.
Absolutely, we're looking forward to the season ahead. See a few different tracks, a few more tracks, and see who's able to make it out on top once again. Unfortunately, it wasn't the race I'm sure you were hoping for today, no. Mikey. But thank you very much for joining us and having us look after the championship for the first season, the inaugural season. And
no worries, and well done, guys, and well done to everyone, and look forward to seeing you next season.
Absolutely. Let's drag Mikey back down. Oh, that feels like a powerful moment where you drag Mikey around What Channel rather than him dragging you. Let's have a chat for the final time this season, and we've spoken to him every race so far. And the reason we've spoken to him every race so far is he's gone 6 for 6 victories over the course of this season. Michael Rhodes, how was your race today? And I guess, how's your season been? It's been incredibly successful.
What? That's so easy, God. It's been so much fun. Didn't expect to get 6 out of 6. Obviously, I did. Everyone's now telling me that I'm promoted next season, so that's going to be fun. But yeah, race was good. Got the lead and just stayed calm. Tweaked myself a little bit just to be a little bit safer because of turn 1 in the Porsche was very scary, as Tom will know. So yeah, I just kept it on the track and just kept it going. Really, I was happy with my pace and my lap time in a car that I think is quite horrible on this track.
Indeed, we saw quite a few thrills and spills in a couple different corners. A lot of them in turn 1. I can't remember the exact name. The corner just before Tower, we had a few slides through here. And through the corner we're seeing now as you go onto the back straight, a few spins both on the entry and on the exit. It was looking like a little bit of a chaotic start out there. We had maybe the most side-by-side action at the beginning of a race we saw this season. How were you approaching it? Did you think, I'm just going to stay out the way, lock in and see how the race goes? Or were you still gunning it before you made it 6 out of 6?
I was just seeing how it was going. I think JT got ahead of me a little bit at the start, so I wasn't too worried. And then obviously everyone's still side by side. I think going into, I can't remember what turn it is. I think it was turn 3 maybe. I managed to get the lead back. And then it was kind of just see what everyone in front of me does. Thankfully it was pretty clean. No big dramas. So yeah, after that it was pretty much just keeping on the track really. I think I only got 2x during the race, so I'll take that. Great
stuff. You could have made it a perfect score for the end of the season. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be to end up with the 0x point, but no one got it out there. It was pretty tricky to at least not get an off track at some point. You're coming in.
I was trying.
You're coming in to the next season 1 of the championship. Well, you've signed up anyway.
I did sign up, but I'm tempted to retire now.
Nico Rosberg with the number 6.
Yeah, number 6.
How are you feeling? Potentially going up a class. We'll see how it goes. To have maybe a bit more of a battle throughout the season.
You know what? If I go up a class, then I know fair play. I'll do my best to try and see if I can compete with the guys that are definitely quicker than me. Obviously, I'll probably be in a different car. And hopefully help me out there in that regard. The track list is great. I can't wait. A lot of the tracks are probably my favorite. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, if I can make every race and do well, then I'll take it. I don't think I'll win a race if I'm in Pro-Am next year. But you never know. You see what we can do.
You never know, indeed. Well, thank you, Mike, and congratulations on your 6 for 6 and your victory today. We'll speak to our Pro-Am winner up next and have an ask of how your race went.
Yeah, it was tough, but yeah, I don't know. I was surprised with my pace. It was really fast.
Well, we saw it was an incredibly close qualifying session. We had, I think it was 2,000th of a second to take off P1. So a competitive Pro-Am class out there today. We saw a few people going for thrills and spills. Did you take it a bit safe after seeing that, or were you still all out pushing?
No, it was all pushing until like the final stint. I had 7 seconds to Jeffrey. So that I did go safe then, but before that it was all pushing.
Well, it very much sounds like everyone had fun out there. Of course, unless I'm completely wrong, I think you're joining us for next season as well. I'm just double
Yep.
checking on that.
Yeah.
How are you feeling
I am.
about those tracks and having a bit of a longer season to contend with over 10 rounds?
I think it's fun. There are definitely some tracks that I don't really know, so I'm gonna have to practice a lot for that. But yeah, I think it will be really fun. Also, more races, the sprint weekends. I think that's gonna be really fun.
Well, absolutely. Thank you very much for coming and talking to us, and congratulations on your victory today. We shall hopefully be talking
Thank
to
you.
you in the next season.
Thank you. We will.
Very confident there. We will be talking to him in the next season. I think that just leaves me to say thank you very much, everybody who has raced with us in this season. Every single one of our drivers, if they came along for one race, they've been here for the whole season. I want to give a big thanks to Mikey Rogers and Thorn, who have entrusted us with broadcasting this season to you. A big thank you to everybody who's tuned in to any of these races as we've gone along. It's been great having you watching and commentating as we go along. And thank you very much to yourself, Zach, for joining me in the commentary box and catching up on those details I've missed as we've gone along. And I'm glad that we're coming back for the next season.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm looking forward to it. You know, again, following you up. Thanks to all the viewers, all the racers, everyone who made season 0 happen, and everyone that's going to make season 1 happen. We'll see you guys here in a few weeks.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. We shall catch you on the 1st of February right here. Bye-bye.